You are looking live.
There's only one way to wake up in the morning.
See when David joins us. He's very in tune to what's going on right now.
Anybody else?
Okay, that's really annoying on everybody's. There you go.
West Florida's Fox Sports Radio, broadcasting live from the Kobe Cooling Remote Studios, where it's always cool and comfortable.
Oh, I like it. It's up to you now. It's up to you. I like it.
Now, the best local sports show this town has ever heard. Here's Miller and Moulton.
You're live.
How the heck are you? Miller and Moulton on this Thursday, the 20th of August. Thanks so much for being with us on Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio, or whether you stream the show at millerandmoulton.com, or whether you're watching live on the Miller and Moulton YouTube and twitch.tv channels. I'm going to have to work on the lighting, Mark, but I don't know if you see the...
No, I don't, because it's a big shadow right now. I see that you put it up on the wall.
All right, I'll work on the lighting.
That would be good, but I see that you've decorated. Yesterday you were decorating.
I redid the room, actually, but my little corner here, I'm going to try to light it a little bit better because my buddy Greg Anderson, who I did some FGCU games with this year, former local coach and still lives in the area and teaches, he does some woodworking, and he has our logo. And at the top, it says, "How the heck are you?" And at the bottom, it says Miller and Moulton. And the big thing in the middle is our logo.
Looky there. And when you put the lights on it, I'm excited to see it.
Yeah.
I like a guy that whittles with some wood.
He's a whittler.
He's a whittler.
He is. And he's good at it.
Well, obviously. So, I mean, I'd love to be. I am good at nothing when it comes to that type of, whether it's arts or crafts, country or Western. I mean, none of those I have, David.
And he also whittled this. For those that are watching, it is our logo.
Look at there.
And I was thinking about maybe, giving
Just
it
hold
to
there
you.
for the rest of the show. The light's perfect like that.
All right. Maybe, I don't know. See, there's no place to put it on the bookcase behind you. But, I was wondering if maybe this would be something that somehow, some way, maybe, the time comes. Because I don't know if I can get both of them in my little shot.
I think just holding it there for the show would be perfect.
Okay.
I like that.
All right.
I want to see how long you can stay. In fact, let's go for it. Let's go for the 6 o'clock hour to see if you can pull that off. Because one, there are a lot of problems if you were to hold that. I don't know if you can talk. Because
I can talk.
Both hands are occupied.
I understand that.
At what point, if you get adamant, would you just throw that in mid-discussion?
There's no doubt I'll have to put it down at some point if we really get going. Either that or it's just going to bob up and down like it's floating in the ocean.
Exactly.
Right, because I'm just going to be talking like crazy.
Exactly. Yes. That's all I want.
You know what I feel like right now? Did you ever watch Deal or No Deal? Okay. All right. I feel like Meghan Markle right now on Deal or No Deal. All right. Or The Price is Right.
That's what I'm thinking. You are. Which Barker Beauty would you want to be?
I feel like I'm holding up a box of Rice-A-Roni, and you have to guess as to whether it's $2.39 or $3.14.
And funny, David, I actually thought you were doing one of the games where you were holding the price.
Okay.
You're actually holding it's M&M. But is it M&M or is it M&N? What exactly are you looking for?
I feel as if I'm holding up the item that you are to guess the price on. So, the top M is $2.39 and the bottom M is $3.14, which is the right price. So, but yes, at least I do know, I mean, my big head, you could light it any darn way you want. It doesn't look good no matter how you light it. But it's nice to know that actually the lighting right around my face is pretty good because
the lighting around your face is fine. Yes, because when we get to the wall, we struggle.
Exactly. So I'm going to have to backlight it better. Okay. Something to work on.
Whoa. What are you doing?
I'm putting it down, Mark. I got to do a show.
I thought you were going to hold that for the 6 o'clock hour.
No. You wanted me to hold it for the 6 o'clock hour. Okay. I held it long enough. I mean, we've been live for 5 minutes and 13 seconds. I think I held it for about half the time. That's pretty good. It really is. So, I mean, I've got the rest of the show today and the whole show tomorrow. I can figure out a way to, put a nail in the wall and backlight it a little bit better. So, it's 3 weeks from today, Chiefs and Texans. I mean, we all have to kind of get our act together because, despite the Big Ten, we're going to have football. I mean, outside of the Big Ten, we're going to have football.
What happened? Did the 6-team breakaway revolt schedule die in 4 hours?
Listen, all right. We're right about a few things. We're wrong about a few things. But the two of us for 2 days have been like, there is no flipping way that they are playing football in the fall. Sorry. This is a pipe dream. It is. Because the only way it could happen is for Ohio State to say to the commissioner of the Big Ten, blank you. We're going rogue. We're doing this. Sue us.
I dare you.
Right.
That's really, and if Ohio State and Michigan, and but it's Ohio State. If Ohio State knocked on the Big Ten office door and said, we're playing football,
right,
all Kevin Warren could do is say, okay.
Right. I mean, think about all of the ramifications. Fox would have to make a decision. Are we siding with Ohio State or are we siding with the conference? Because Commissioner Warren would fight it. And so they've already had this behind closed doors conversation. I'm sure it got heated at one point. And I'm sure Commissioner Warren basically said, knock yourself out. Go for it. You want war, we'll fight a war. And Ohio State ultimately decided this football season is not worth a war. Because that's literally what would have had to have happened. Either that or Commissioner Warren would have had to resign immediately. At which point Ohio State would be running the conference.
And Michigan will never let that happen.
Even though reportedly, this grand plan that was being floated that between certain schools that just can't play football right now because they've got too much COVID, which supposedly was Maryland and Rutgers. Okay, then you've got certain states like Illinois in which the governor's just not going to allow it. So there goes 2 teams in Illinois and Northwestern. All right, I guess Indiana's the same way with Purdue and Indiana. So now, and between states that would allow it and schools that wanted to play, and you had 6 teams. The thing that I found interesting was you were going to have Michigan and not have Michigan State. Now, that in and of itself was going to be fascinating. Never mind the fact that we really don't know if the governor of Michigan would be on board for this.
It certainly seems as if she would not. Just for the record, they have been as hardline as slowing down COVID things as any state in the country as far as their rules and regulations.
Right.
So to think that the governor of Michigan would allow the University of Michigan to play football seems like a stretch. Not a huge stretch, but it seems like a stretch.
And then, from a political standpoint, within the conference, never mind the state, I mean, if you're Michigan State, can you really allow a season to go forward where Big Brother's playing and you're not? I mean, honestly, Mark, it'd be Oklahoma State. I mean, give Oklahoma credit throughout the years. They've always said in negotiations with the Big 8 and the Big 12, whatever it was, hey, they're with us here. We're not doing this independent of them because they know the political ramifications within the state. All right. They're not willing to go there. I mean, that in and of it, there was so much about this, which I'm sorry. I thought it was a joke. I did. I looked at it. I go, this has nothing in reality. There is so much that would have to happen here. Governors who would have to allow you to play who right now don't seemingly want to allow anything to take place activity-wise, whether it be schools or colleges or anything. And then Michigan's going to break away from Michigan State, and that's going to be allowed. And Ohio State's going to stage a coup. I mean, and it was going to be Iowa, Nebraska, Wisconsin on one side, Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State on the other. There was going to be 6 of them. They were going to play a home and home. So they were going to play 10 games. They were going to play in the fall. And then what? Turn around and play in the spring? Or are the other 8 teams playing in the spring? And by the way, if so, you think Fox is interested in airing any of those games? I mean, I'm sorry. Let's take the 6 teams out of the equation. No Ohio State, no Michigan, no Penn State games? I mean,
this spring on Fox, we give you Northwestern at Minnesota.
Right. Twice, by the way. I mean, I'm sorry. I know there are many, many Big Ten listeners and fans that we have, and you desperately, many of you, or some of you, all right, want football in the fall. Believe me, I get it. Totally get it. But I never in the last 48 plus hours believed for a second that there was going to be football in the fall. And as the commissioner came out yesterday, I mean, he basically came out yesterday and said, over my dead body, we're not playing.
Well, first off, I'm sorry, David. When the commissioner of the Big Ten speaks and basically says over my dead body, I think that there are over half the teams in the conference that simply answer that question, okay. I know a guy. I can take care of this.
Right.
I don't think – look, when the – David, right now I'm at the point when the Big Ten commissioner speaks, I don't know if anyone's listening. No, hey, David, he's passionate, and we have said all along, Kevin Warren may be right. There may be no football collegiately this fall, and the Big Ten in the spring may look as if they were the smartest conference in the land. It's all entirely possible.
Yep.
But at this moment in time, there's not a soul in the country that takes the Big Ten commissioner seriously. They don't.
Well,
no, David, listen, he's passionate, and maybe the presidents do, but football people, sports fans are looking at him and going, really? You quit? And David, you said it all along. You phrased it, it's un-American not to try.
It seems to me,
David, it's even more un-American to quit. It is the one thing that we have been taught our whole lives. Finish it. You don't like, dads have told kids for years. Moms have told sons for years. Yeah, I don't know what to tell you. You signed up to play on that team. You're going to finish.
Yeah, daughters as well. You
made
an
obligation. If you're going to play on the soccer team, the t-ball team, the whatever team, you're going to finish the season. If you don't want to play after that, that's okay.
Fine. Yep.
But we have taught our children for generations, David, to try.
Yep.
And as you've said, it's un-American not to try. It's more un-American to quit. And right now, when Kevin Warren speaks, no one's listening because he quit. And he was the first to quit.
But I'll say this, Mark, okay, and fans may feel that way, but Ohio State and the others did not stage a coup. All right, so he's got enough important people listening to him. And he may only have about 12 important people listening to him. Okay, but they're the ones that ultimately prevented any sort of coup, because that's what would have had to have happened.
Yes.
It would have had to have been a coup in which essentially by the end of this week, we'd have a new commissioner in the Big Ten. And it would be whoever Ohio State wanted it to be.
Yep.
It'd probably be Urban Meyer, for goodness sakes, as interim commissioner. It might as well, because that's literally what would have had to have happened in order for what was being talked about over the last 48 hours to go down.
And Miller and Moulton are two of the biggest fans of a coup.
Oh,
that there are. I do. Today was the day when. And I have, centuries of information in front of me. And at least once a week, I look at David and say, hey, had a coup attempt today in 1584 and wherever. And we laugh.
Tell me all about it.
It's one of our little inside jokes during breaks that we've had for years. Ooh, coup. We laugh at coups. We kind of talk about, because there's different phrases they use for a coup. But yes, we are fans of a coup.
Right. Mark, in this country, you know how we refer to a coup? Bay of Pigs. Whatever you want to call it. Right. I mean, what's going on in what's that Eastern European country that used to be a part of? Yeah. Well, it's not the Ukraine. It's not Albania either. I'm thinking of the movie, but we got the unrest going on in the former Soviet Union there, and they had an election. The dictator stole it, and the people are basically trying to stage a coup.
David, it was today back in the 50s that we threw a coup in Iran. The CIA effectively had a coup. We're good at coups. Belarus.
Yes.
Thanks, Juan.
Thank you. Yes, Belarus. Right. I mean,
we threw a good coup in the 50s in Iran today. We're good at a coup.
Yes, we really are. I'd say we're top 3 at coups, and I might even put us at the top in terms of helping coups without getting our hands dirty. I think we're the best.
We have assisted many a coup.
Oh, yes. Yes, absolutely. And then stood back and go, wow, some work these guys did. Oh, yeah, no, we're good at it. No, we like it.
In fact, there's a lot of people who think the first word in CIA is not central. It's coup, intelligence association. Agency, rather.
Right. And as Dandy Coyne said in our Twitch chat room, kudos are better. Well
I
played.
agree. It could be a poll question today. Coups or kudos?
What
do you like better?
But I mean, getting back to the Michigan State thing, I mean, I guess it's possible. I mean, Texas and Texas A&M are no longer in the same conference. I mean, as it was pointed out to me here in the last few minutes. So, yeah, I guess it's possible. You're right. For a long time in Texas, that would have been the unthinkable. And yes, not only are they not in the same conference anymore, they don't even play.
But here's the problem. The SEC nor the ACC want Michigan State. So their only option is the Big Ten or the MAC.
AAC. No, they would have joined the AAC. Their big rivalry game would be Cincinnati. Hello.
Oh boy, I mean, David, I was very close, and I'm not joking when I say this. Before the Big Ten ended their season, I was cleaning my closet, and in my closet is a white garbage bag. Inside that white garbage bag is every piece of Michigan State apparel that I have.
That's right. It's been there for about 2 years now.
And I said this when they had the graduation and they got a lot of famous alumni and coaches to do this really cool online commencement speech for their graduates. I'm like, that was the first thing. It's the first time that Michigan State warmed my heart since all of these things that I've abandoned them for.
Right. You mean the Nasser stuff. Right.
The Nasser stuff. Right. And the way D'Antonio was indignant towards everybody after that, he just kind of rubbed me the wrong way, and I've been done.
Right. You don't wear anything.
No.
You took
a garbage bag.
And you had a Michigan State golf bag.
You got rid of that too.
I mean, and let me tell you, that's the serious one. That's when I knew you were serious. It's one thing to not wear a golf shirt, but hey, to clean out a golf bag. Okay. And once again, now some of us don't put a whole lot in our golf bag, and some of us live in our golf bag. And so it can be an ordeal when you decide I'm going to, exchange out my golf bag. And I'm like, wow, he's going to take all that stuff out. Man, he's really honked.
And I like the new coach. I like the things he said. And I was contemplating wearing Michigan State gear again. And then the season ended. And I'm not blaming Michigan State for this, but I'm certainly going through another year of not wearing green and white because of a non-coup happening with the Big Ten football conference. But yes, it would be. I don't see that happening because the point you make, there are too many people inside the government in any state that affect the funds that go to universities that this would turn personal if two schools inside of a state within a conference split.
Yeah. Yes, it'd get ugly. It'd be really political. And yes, and then the politicians would get involved because you got some who went to Michigan and some who went to state. And
I would guess in Michigan, to be frank, David, you probably have more people in government offices in the state of Michigan that went to Michigan State than Michigan, because people that went to Michigan are probably in national positions and they're running companies.
Look at you. So But it's possible. Hey, Texas and Texas A&M. I guess we can have breakaway provinces and we can have coups, but it wasn't going to happen. It wasn't. Mm-mm. So don't get me wrong. The thought of it was tremendous. Tremendous. I mean, I would have donated money to the cause. I would have sent money to Ohio State if they would have decided to break away. Not that they need it, but I just would have wanted to show my support. It's one of those, and then you keep track of the records, and somebody 10 years later goes, you gave money to such and such a candidate, and you explain why. All right. And somebody would have said, wait a minute, you once gave money to Ohio State. You don't have any connection. Yeah, they staged that coup in 2020. I supported the coup. I'm in favor of coups. Okay. I do sports talk radio. Anarchy works. Anarchy's big. I mean, that's angst times 12.
David may not be staging coups today, but if he is smart, he has got his resume tape off to Fox Sports because there is an opening in the play-by-play world, and he may want to get it to Cincinnati because it's open there too.
Is it official? I don't think it's official.
No, it's not official, but he's done.
Probably.
We will explain coming up because it was not only uncomfortable, it was the most awkward apology in the history of apologies.
Well, you can't have a home run call in the middle of an apology.
That coming up. Don't know if it'll make the starting five, but it will certainly make the show today because, well, it's not a coup, but it is uncomfortable in ways that you really can't explain. Reds baseball. On the other side, the starting five. We will come up with a poll question for the show at some point, and we will not stage a coup at any point during this show.
Not this show. Not today. Not today.
Don't get me wrong. Next week, when we have the Twitch only hour at 9 a.m., there is a legit chance that someone will stage a coup between now and Christmas when Miller and Moulton are doing their extra hour.
I mean, listen, there's always angst with either Miller or Moulton or between Miller and Moulton. So there's always an angst meter with the show, but there is not nearly enough angst to stage a coup. In the past, there have been coups. There have been hunger strikes. Okay. There have been walkouts. Okay. There have been scenes. There have been suspensions. There have been firings. Okay.
Never a coup.
But no, not yet. You know what, Mark? Come to think of it, it may be something to strive for in the future.
Miller and Moulton, we're due for
a coup.
Fox Sports Radio, streaming at millerandmoulton.com, and you are looking live at the shadows of Miller and Moulton on twitch.tv.
We are due for a coup.
I thought you'd like that. I couldn't believe it when I get up and I'm like, Tom Brenneman's trending. I'm like, what the hell did he do?
Yep.
Holy boy.
To catch Major League Baseball. Don't miss your chance to hear something special. Major League Baseball is here. How did that ball have that special sound? Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio. Roll up refreshed with makeup. I pride myself and think of myself as a man of faith.
Must be a Baptist because Baptists don't really like gay people.
It will be a home run.
I'm a man of faith and a home run.
I don't know if I'm going to be putting on this headset hard. I'm so very, very sorry. I pride myself and think of myself as a man of faith. As there's a drive in a deep left field by Castellanos, it will be a home run.
I okay, how's this? Too much? What do we got?
That's much better.
Much better. Can you see it?
Yeah, it's tough because the way the wood's done, you're going to get a lot of glare on that, David. That's the only problem. There's a significant amount of glare.
Right, but here, if it was up here,
there you still get you got glare, David. There's just but that's fine. You can put a nail in the wall. Jesus,
it's heavy. I don't know.
2 nails.
Yeah,
why don't you just hold it for the whole show?
Right, I know.
Dan Martineau here, owner of DR.
So I am gonna put it on the wall there. I'm very disappointed in myself. I'd like to pride myself, and there's a drive, deep left center field. Okay.
All right. I'm going to get in trouble for this, but he must be a Baptist because that's the only religion I really know that doesn't like gay people.
You're not going to use the slur, are you?
No.
My Shower Door has just opened their 8th Florida showroom, and it's conveniently located in Cape Coral. With more than 75,000 frameless shower doors installed.
Did you watch my 2.5 minutes of Club Pro Guy yet?
No, I didn't.
Thank you.
Busy day, Mark. I'm sorry. Busy day. I had to
I
cleaning, redid the room. I had 2 conference calls.
Okay.
You don't
even pay attention to the conference calls.
One of them I was an active participant in. Mark, I actually did more work yesterday than maybe I've done during the pandemic. Today, meanwhile, I got virtually nothing on the schedule. All right, I'll write that down right now. Club Pro Guy.
14 Grand Slam titles. You won't get this level of
done
anywhere else. And now expanded to include
Club Pro Guy / Ravel. Got it.
He's suspended.
Yeah. Oh, they suspended him during the game. No, they did. They pulled him off the air. He apologized, and they pulled him off the air.
Oh, God. This commercial, I keep thinking of the Florida Grouper because it says group or one-on-one sessions, and it just sounds like grouper.
I cannot get the Twitch chat room to work for me so that I can comment. I can't type in.
You're live.
"28 minutes past the hour, Miller and Moulton. Thanks so much for being with us. Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio, or streaming at millerandmoulton.com, or broadcasting live on the Miller and Moulton YouTube and Twitch.tv channels. I do want to send out a shout out to my mom. It's her birthday today.
Happy birthday, Mom. I knew it was right around mine. I couldn't remember the date. Happy birthday, Mom Moulton.
Yeah, I love you, Mom. All right. And it's a good thing, my mom's birthday reminds me of when your birthday's coming up. So, that's good because yours is only a few days after it. So
exactly.
Because I always forgot your birthday. So I just had to 1 year finally take a moment to realize, hey, listen, blankety blank, you always remember your mother's. Okay. His is only 3 days later. So figure it out.
And yours is December, but I always screw up the date. It's somewhere between the 20th and right around the 20th.
Hey, listen, once again, people in my family, it's close enough to Christmas.
What day is
the 19th, where my
right
wife,
the 20th. I was off by a day.
Oh, exactly. That's good for you. That's good. You were within 24 hours of it. All right. And so please, my wife and daughter are unsure as to when my birthday is. It's too close to Christmas, and they're all in on Christmas, and they really don't care about the old man's birthday.
But it bothers me because I actually am really good with dates. For whatever reason, I remember birthdays. Everybody's birthdays. My friends, I have a good idea of when most people's birthdays, for whatever reason. I mean, I remember people that I dated years ago. Oh, it's so-and-so's birthday. It's just something that's in my head. And yours and my buddy David Miller. His is in April, yours is in December. I know when they are, and I always screw apparently it's something with David's. Maybe that's it. I have no idea. But I screw up 2 birthdays, yours and David Miller's, and it always bothers me. So I wrote it down. I wrote it down and circled it on this notepad here, December 19th. Might even put it in my phone.
I will turn 55 in Atlanta because that is the night of the SEC championship game, December 19th. It's late this year, the Saturday before Christmas. Without further ado, at 30 minutes past the hour, time for
big stories that you need to know. This is Miller and Moulton starting 5. Fox Sports Radio and FoxSportsFM.com.
Turns out the Big Ten is planning for winter football to start in January. I think they're taking that Jeff Brom plan and they are running with it in a big way. Commissioner Warren said in an open letter yesterday, quote, the Big Ten Council of Presidents and Chancellors was overwhelmingly in support of the postponing of fall sports, and this will not be revisited. So, once again, there needs to be somebody who works in these offices, who is the person that understands fans and media, who literally, before they send out the release and before these commissioners go to do press conferences, they turn and they look at this person and they go, are there any problems with this? What's the first question I'm going to be asked? Mark, I'm not joking when I say this. I am not kidding. I would hire, whether it was as an advisor or consultant, former member of the media. Because when Commissioner Warren of the Big Ten is releasing this statement, the Council of Presidents and Chancellors was overwhelmingly in support of postponing fall sports, and this will not be revisited. What is the first question that you're going to get? What was the vote? What does overwhelmingly in support mean? Your fans want to know. It's why they've got petitions. It's why they're planning on visiting your offices today and tomorrow. There are parents of football players who are making a pilgrimage to Commissioner Warren's office. And it's because they want to know. They want transparency. This is kind of a big decision you made. Can you lay out what exactly was involved? When the president of when the athletic director at Penn State University, and when one of the board of trustees on our show 2 days ago is saying, well, I don't even know if there was a vote. When the athletic director at Penn State doesn't know if there was a vote? Come on. What does overwhelmingly in support mean? That tells me it wasn't unanimous, because you would have said unanimously in support. And then we would know. Unbelievable. This kind of slid in under the door yesterday. It's just a little, note under the door. The NCAA Division I Council is recommending that every athlete in fall sports, male or female, doesn't matter the sport, doesn't matter if they play or not this year, is to get an extra year of eligibility. So think about this. You're an SEC, ACC, Big 12 football player. You're going to play this year, and it's not going to count against your eligibility. You're all going to have 6 years to finish 5. You can then later redshirt. Mark, you cannot play this year, like the Big 10 and Pac-12, and still have a redshirt year down the road. And then still have 4 years in which you play on the field.
Well, and David, it's funny. That's what you think in terms of the athlete and how much they get to play. The first thing I thought of is how many athletes are getting gray shirted.
Oh yeah,
because this is a nice offer, David. It's a great idea. Unfortunately, the harsh world of college athletics, this means there's still only 4 scholarships?
85.
85 scholarships? Okay. Well, they're not increasing the number of scholarships.
Nope.
Not giving you another class. They're not going from 85 to, 110. What they're telling you is you still have 85. Figure out which 85 you want. And
right.
A lot of people are going to get pushed to the side.
Yep.
When I hear that, I don't look at that as exciting. I don't look at this as for the athlete. I actually look at this as how many kids are going to lose their damn scholarships because we're going to gray shirt them.
Or they're going to have to finish their career somewhere else. Like the University of Wisconsin was very open when all the spring sport athletes got their year back from the NCAA. The University of Wisconsin said, hey, that's great. You're not going to do it here. If you're a senior and you were expected to be done, you're done. We're not. You may have the year of eligibility from the NCAA, but we are not going to give you the scholarship for it here. We support you transferring anywhere else, but you're done here. And that's going to happen at a lot of places. The full vote on this is expected tomorrow. Notre Dame and North Carolina, for the record, have halted all athletic activities because of a rising number of positive COVID tests on their campuses. The NFL, speaking of COVID, is willing to consider a playoff bubble, or as they call it, Mark, a, quote, secure environment, unquote. I don't mean to, well, maybe I do. Mark, we make it to the playoffs in the NFL. Now, first off, think about what's going to happen between now and the playoffs. 16 games, in theory, over 17 weeks. And the playoffs don't start till the second weekend of January also. First weekend of January this year is the final weekend of the regular season. So we get to the quote-unquote playoffs where you've been playing for home field advantage, right? Whatever that is, even if it's only 20, 25% of fans. And who knows, maybe by January we'll have more fans at games, or we may have no fans at games. But so we're going to play the regular season where everybody's playing home and away, and then we're going to get to the playoffs and we're going to play in a bubble? First off, if we make it to the playoffs, do we need the bubble?
No, David, we don't.
Okay. Chiefs.
I mean, that's the thing about this I find hysterical. If we actually get to the playoffs,
right,
playing football the way we're playing it, what the hell do we need a bubble for?
I was going to say.
I mean, we've gotten through 16. Look, if we get to January and we're still playing football, I don't need Santa. I need the NFL playoffs.
Listen, I think we could argue if we're going to do a bubble now and then open it up for the playoffs. But I digress. Chiefs cornerback Bashard Breeland is going to miss the first 4 games of the year, suspended for a violation of the league substance abuse policy. NBA playoffs, Brooklyn gave our Toronto Raptors, Mark, all they could handle, but Toronto leads the series 2-0 with a 104-99 win.
Nice comeback. Nice fourth quarter comeback by our Southwest Florida Raptors.
Yeah, they were mailing it in. They, after blowing the Nets out in game 1, they didn't take them seriously, but they took them seriously in the fourth quarter. And then Joe Harris opted out for the Nets.
I did. I did something, David, I probably shouldn't have last night. I'm going to admit it on air right now. With a buddy of mine watching the comeback, having a beer. And after they came back, I said, Nick said he'd come on the show again. How about throwing Coach a little text saying nice comeback and see what happens? And I did. And I got a thank you, but I didn't get a time and date.
Right. Well, you didn't ask. You're just trying to keep.
I just said, great comeback. Hope we can have you on the show again. Thank you.
Right.
Just throwing that out there, David. I'm not afraid. He'll block me at some point, but it's all right.
Greasing the skids.
Yep. Avs, Braves, and Raptors. Those are our teams on Miller and Roll.
That's right. And I feel confident one of them is going to be in the finals. Okay. Between the Avs.
They're all going deep. I will tell you that. They're all going deep.
Between the Avs and the Raptors, I feel confident one of them is going to make the finals. Celtics whooped up on the Sixers, 128-101. Very funny tweet in the fourth quarter of that game. Boston's blowing out Philadelphia, and somebody who covers the Sixers tweets out, they didn't look this bad when they were tanking. Boston leads that series 2-0. So you figure we're about 72 hours or so away from wholesale changes with the 76ers organization. Utah got the better of Denver in a big way, 124-105 to even that series at a game apiece. And I think they get Mike Conley back for game 3 and give it up to Luka and the Mavs. Porzingis was big as well. Dallas pulled away in the third quarter from the Clippers and beat them 127-114 to even that series at a game apiece. Hey, the ping pong balls are tonight. Now, they're not having it the way they normally have it, and it's going to be in like an office or something in Chicago, and there's going to be virtually nobody there. But the lottery order is going to be determined tonight in the NBA. The actual draft is in October. But just, I'm one of those that I like the ping pong balls. This year, there's no consensus number one pick, and it's going to be a crapshoot. But I just thought you'd want to know that. NHL playoffs. It was Elimination Wednesday. Tampa Bay rallied from a 4-2 deficit late third, scored twice, and then won it in overtime. Braden Point, who won that 5 overtime game, ends up clinching the series with an overtime winner. 5-4 Lightning. They eliminate the Blue Jackets in 5. All 4 wins were by a goal. Bruins beat Carolina 2-1 to win that series in 5. Colorado annihilated Arizona 7-1 to win that series in 5. But somebody stayed alive last night, and it was Les Habitants, the Canadians, in a spirited game. The first time, Mark, don't get me wrong, the hockey's been really good. Last night's Canadian Flyers game felt like a playoff game. Well, it was like nasty.
Like game one of Washington and the Islanders. I mean, that's the first game I watched that I went, ooh, this has got an edge to it. And last night, you're right, Canadians Flyers had that same edge.
5-3, Montreal wins game 5, and Flyers lead that series 3-2. And Vancouver has pushed the defending Cup champion Blues to the brink. They rallied from a 3-1 deficit to win 4-3, and they now lead that series 3-2. Major League Baseball, the Rays are a half a game out of first, ladies and gentlemen. They beat the Yankees in the Bronx again 4-2. They play for first place at 1 o'clock today, Mark. Rays and Yankees for first in the East. Mets beat the Marlins for the third day in a row, 5-3. Marlins have lost 5 straight. Miami's now 9-9 on the season. Cubs and Cards played another doubleheader because until further notice, the Cardinals are playing doubleheaders. They split. Cardinals won the first game 9-3. Cubs won the second 4-2. What's significant about the second game, Mark, Craig Kimbrell with the save. They've been, he's been a bit of a project this year, and they had to put him in a stressful situation yesterday, and he delivered. That's a good sign for the Cubbies. Hey, the Red Sox won 6-3 over the Phillies. Twins lost to the Brewers 9-3. Give it up to the Stros. They've won 7 straight. We may hate them, but 13-6 over Colorado. And Mark, our new favorite baseball player, Fernando Tatis Jr., homered in his first at-bat last night. Padres in extra innings beat the Rangers 6-3. The pride of Bishop Verreau got designated for assignment last night. Daniel Vogelback hitting below 100, and the manager was blunt when she said, hey, he's not a good fielder, and this is not the try-hard league. He's not hitting, and basically his bat's going to be what keeps him in the majors. So any team can claim him. If they don't, he likely will go to the Mariners, supplemental camp there and still be in the organization and eligible to come back up. But
this sounds like someone the Rays would claim.
Well, I was thinking Marlins.
Well, I know, but the Marlins aren't a good organization, David. The Rays are. And that's the only reason. I mean, the Rays have done so much with so little over the past 5 years that you may be right, but I look at that and go, wow, this seems like a guy the Rays might go after.
A year ago, he was in the All-Star game. Professional sports, folks, it's a cruel world. And finally, Mark, don't know if you heard this yesterday. Our buddy, our second favorite baseball player, Fernando Tatis Jr. is our favorite. Trevor Bauer, pitcher for the Reds. So he's angry at the Houston Astros. Isn't that fair to say? It's like Richard Gere and Pretty Woman.
Yes.
I was angry with my father.
Mm-hmm.
Right, 10 years of therapy. I can now say that. I was angry with my father. Trevor Bauer is going to need about 10 years of therapy to stop being so angry at the Houston Astros. Remember the incident a month ago, Joe Kelly of the Dodgers yelling, threw a couple pitches inside. A couple of the Astros were yelling at him. Joe Kelly yelled back, got suspended 8 games. That suspension's been reduced to 5. For the record. And then Kelly went on the injured list. So he's not pitching, and he's yet to serve the suspension because he has to come off the list in order to serve it. But Trevor Bauer thought it was absolutely ridiculous that Joe Kelly got suspended for a minute. All right. And so Trevor Bauer because this year, the social justice year, you can make any statement that you want year. It was negotiated between Major League Baseball and the Players Association. The players can put anything they want on their cleats. So Joe Kelly, okay, his form of social justice was on one cleat, it was to say free Joe Kelly. And on the other cleat, it was a picture of Joe Kelly with the expression, deal with it. And he was going to wear them when pitching in yesterday's doubleheader against the Royals. Major League Baseball found out and said, you will be immediately ejected from the game and you will get a long suspension. Of course, so Trevor Bauer then takes to Twitter and says, well, what happened about you can put anything you want on your cleats and freedom of expression and all that. And then Bauer goes out and throws a 2-hitter against the Royals. So between Fernando Tatis Jr. and Trevor Bauer, we have a couple of new favorite players in our lives. And that, Mark, is
the starting five. 5 big stories that you need to know. This is Miller and Moulton Starting Five. Fox Sports Radio and FoxSportsFM.com.
Starting five brought to you by nobody. Absolutely nobody.
Where are they located, by the way? Is that a San Carlos Park place? Where is that?
Closet.
Oh, hello. Yikes.
We will explain why there's a job opening.
Well,
for Fox Sports, NFL broadcast, and more than likely Cincinnati Reds broadcast on the other side. Plus, we'll come up with a poll question. Hell, who knows? It may be around Tom Brenneman.
Oh, boy.
Miller and Moulton, Fox Sports Radio. I have David very nervous.
Yes.
At millerandmoulton.com, and you are looking live at David's newly designed studio on twitch.tv.
Welcome to the program. This is the Dan Patrick.
I love Obi Toppin. He is not going to be better than Zion.
And now with the Cardinals,
that ain't happening. Unless Zion eats his way out of the NBA.
Baseball, from what I'm told,
unless he turns into Oliver Miller.
They're going to go limping, scratching into the postseason.
Obi Toppin,
the Dan Patrick Show.
Who I don't even know if Obi's going in the top 10.
For
some
reason, yeah, I know. For some reason, scouts don't think he's versatile enough for the NBA.
Wow.
Beef, crispy bacon and onion rings, and topped with barbecue sauce. But we added spicy jalapenos.
Well, Arch, you're going to have to listen.
We took a burger already delicious and spiced it up. Why are we using this whip crack to explain it? Because jalapenos sound like this. Try the new spicy Western bacon cheese.
What's up with Tom, Arch? Well, he used a homophobic slur during what he thought was a commercial break.
Right.
And he said it's a total blank town. British word for a cigarette. And it was on a hot mic.
Right.
And then we're going to play the apology coming back. There are 2 key parts to this apology. One, there was a 3-run home run hit during the.
Was it a 3-run or just a solo
home run? I'm sorry, solo home run, making it 4-0. And he apologized more than anything to the people who signed his paycheck. He really didn't care that he offended gay people. He was more upset that he offended his boss. That's why he's not getting a job again. He's done. Because the apology was so bad. So bad.
He had a great home run call.
By the way, I will tell you this. I listened because I met my buddy around 3:30 yesterday, so I had to leave during overtime. I watched the end of the third, and I left, put it on the radio. He's awful. He is so bad.
Oh, the screamer?
He's so effing bad.
I don't think he's good at all.
No. Look, I haven't done a hockey game in over 10 years. I could step in right now, and I'm 40 times better than he's ever been. I had no idea where the effing puck was. He throws a name out occasionally. He has no idea in the zone, neutral zone.
By the way, I guess yesterday's game was the last game for their TV play-by-play guy. Because now the locals are done. You know, every game will be nationally televised from the second round on. So 24 years. The guy had done TV play-by-play for the Lightning.
Oh, and he's done. He's retiring.
His last game, once they won, that's it. His career ended. And the other thing that's strange about it is that he's calling the game from the Lightning arena in Tampa.
Correct.
So he's there with the chief and then the other guy who do pre and post.
Right. And the pre and post radio guy for the Lightning's worse than the broadcaster. Listen to the overtime intermission. Guy has no business on the air because NHL radio picked up the Lightning broadcast on Sirius. Oh, I mean, David, he was reading the games that were coming up, and Philadelphia plays against, and it's like he didn't know what the nickname of the Canadians was. He had Montreal, and there was like this pause. Plays the Canadians, and I'm like, dude, you don't know who the nickname of the Montreal team in the NHL. I mean, that's a problem if you're doing intermissions on a radio station.
Do you know it was a really good hockey radio broadcast? The Bruins. And their color commentator their analyst plays it straight, and he's really good. The play-by-play guy's on top of it, solid. I listened to a period of the Bruins broadcast yesterday. Was very impressed. It was a
poll question. We're coming back here.
Whatever.
Now back to Miller and Moulton.
All right, now we're getting.
See what I deal with, everybody? He doesn't even care anymore.
Right.
It's Miller and Moulton. You're live.
Eight minutes before the top of the hour. Thanks so much for being with us on this Thursday edition, my mother's birthday of Miller and Moulton, Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio, streaming at millerandmoulton.com, broadcasting live, Miller and Moulton YouTube and twitch.tv channels. You can chime into the show via the Williamson Brothers Marine and Roofing text line at 479-5551, 239-479-5551. All right, tell everybody the Brenneman story.
Well, last night during the Reds game, Tom Brenneman, the voice of the Reds, when he thought the mics were off. And, we have fun here on Twitch. And during the commercial breaks, we've talked often recently about the North Carolina Daily Tar Heel paper, and they used cluster blank, the actual word.
Right.
And David said it during a break. And I was scared to say it during the break. Not that I'm afraid to say that word. I use it like the when I'm off the air, but 6 to 9, I have a filter. Believe me, this is actually filtered. So, when David said it during the break, I almost was in shock because his filter's way better than mine. We always assume that the mic's hot. That's just what you're taught in this business.
Right.
And Tom Brenneman makes a comment last night that it's one of that's a total blank town. And he used a gay slur, think British cigarette. And then came back on the air.
When somebody said to him, Tom, that went over the air.
So he finds out it went over the air. And here is the apology, because it's an all-timer. The fact that he attempted.
It's awkward.
And what happened. Here is last night's Reds broadcast. Tom Brenneman apologizing.
Out of my heart, I'm so very, very sorry. I pride myself and think of myself as a man of faith. As there's a drive in a deep left field by Castellanos, it will be a home run. And so that'll make it a 4-0 ball game. I don't know if I'm going to be putting on this headset again. I don't know if it's going to be for the Reds. I don't know if it's going to be for my bosses at Fox. I want to apologize for the people who signed my paycheck.
There it is.
For the Reds, for Fox Sports Ohio, for the people I work with, for anybody that I've offended here tonight.
But that was last.
I can't begin to tell you how deeply sorry I am. That is not who I am, and never has been. And I'd like to think maybe I could have some people that could back that up. I am very, very sorry, and I beg for your forgiveness.
That's Tom Brenneman after he dropped a homophobic slur on the air, and he apologized to Fox Sports Ohio, Fox Sports, Cincinnati Reds, whoever signs his paycheck, and then whoever he may have offended. You know, the entire gay community. Tom's done. In today's world, Tom's done, David. Maybe a year ago, maybe 5 years ago, he's not. He's done. I don't know if that's fair. I'm not trying to play judge and jury. I'm just telling you, in 2020, in the cancel culture that we're in right now, he's out of a job. The Reds immediately suspended him. He was suspended right after that happened. He didn't finish the game.
No, he took shortly after that. He took his headset off, and someone else finished the game. Is it a fireable offense? Yes. And we've had this discussion before as a couple of people who have been fired, not because of something that we said on the air, but a couple of people who have been fired. Is it a fireable offense? Yes. Should he be fired? You're answering the question, will he be? Okay. I'm asking the question.
In my personal opinion, I think he will be fired. I don't think there's a way Fox can put him on their NFL broadcast this year, David. I don't. Not in 2020.
Well, if you can't put him on in 2020, can you put him on in 2021? And I'm not being, a jerk when I ask that question. I mean, there have been people from sports who have been suspended a year. I'm just wondering, is there, does he have to be fired?
Yes.
It is a fireable offense. Okay.
Certainly for the Reds, certainly. Because I think you'd get a lot of heat. I think the advertisers, if he were brought back, I think the advertisers would end up having to pull, because I think there's going to be a lot of pressure put on advertisers at this point. Again, is it a fireable offense, David? I don't know. I'm just telling you, if I'm running the Reds, he's gone. I'm not going to play around with this.
You wouldn't suspend him for the rest of the year?
No.
He's been with that organization a long time.
I understand.
Okay, I'm just pointing out the facts.
Man, look, I'm not saying it's the right thing. I'm just telling you, if I'm running the business, that's what I'd do.
From Southwest Florida's news leader.
By the way, David, if I go David's mom's, are those both personalized? Are those both apostrophe S?
I don't know. I don't know.
What was your favorite restaurant in Jersey that's shut down now?
Florida Gulf Coast University is now posting positive COVID-19
you went on your weekly restaurant runs that mom took you out to dinner 5-6 nights a week. Is there one that's shut down?
Oh, wow.
What's your York steak?
Yeah. Well, no, we never went to anything that fancy.
Rustler
Steakhouse was the fancy one. On Saturdays, we'd go to the Rustler Steakhouse.
Rustler apostrophe S?
Rustler, right. Like Hustler, Rustler. Right. Rustler Steakhouse. Yep, on Saturdays. That's where we'd go. Fancy meal. Got the tray. Okay, you went through the cafeteria style line.
That's the York Steakhouse.
Right.
Exactly.
Right. Yep.
Notice the scroll.
Dan Martineau here, owner of
I got 2 birthdays in there. Sorry, we got to edit.
Well, and I have a feeling one of the S's is like
I think so too, right?
I think one of the S's is an apostrophe after the S.
Or call 239-332-1441.
License number CCC 1326954.
The moms would be. No? Anyone want to help with grammar here?
Vern would know. Wake him up. It's 5 a.m. Steamboat.
Vern, please.
365 days a year. Inland, the river, to Lake O, and out 75 nautical miles. And new membership pricing starts with no.
I mean, I don't know if you want to do. I don't know if you want to do the Brenneman poll question, okay, and ask, should Tom Brenneman, what would you do? What would you if you? No, well, you don't have it. The poll question's in 2020, so the people know the times we're living in. If you were Tom Brenneman's boss, what would you do? All right, fire him.
No, I got you. We need a all right. Yeah, I like it. Why not?
Suspend him for rest of season.
Do we need to put a little explanation in there?
If you feel at the beginning, Tom Brenneman,
Fire him, suspend him, right?
Yeah. I mean, you could say Tom Brenneman used a gay slur on last night's Reds broadcast. If you were the Reds/Fox, what would you do?
I hit send before that, so we're just going to go with what it is. Sorry. If you were Tom Brenneman's boss, what would you do? Fire him, suspend him.
Which made me happier. I didn't let anybody else behind the wheel of the car. And Moulton. Look at you. I'm the man of the house.
Green Grapes won, by the way.
Sports Radio.
Oh,
Broadcasting live from the Kobe Cooling Remote Studios.
good to know.
It's cool and comfortable.
Oh, I like it. It's up to you now. It's up to you. I like it.
Now, the best local sports show this town has ever heard. Here's Miller and Moulton.
You're live.
As we approach a couple minutes past the hour, top of the morning to you. How the heck are you? Miller and Moulton, Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio, streaming at millerandmoulton.com, broadcasting live on the Miller and Moulton YouTube and Twitch.tv channels, and proud to be simulcast on the Landry Football Network, also on Twitch.tv. And either next week or the week after, there will be a bonus exclusive hour only on the Miller and Moulton and Landry Football Network Twitch TV channels. It's another reason to sign up, and they're free. And you can even then be a subscriber and, miss out on commercials and other stuff. Cost you a few shekels. So it's worth it. It's worth it just for the commercial breaks, I'm telling you. The material during the commercial breaks. I mean, it's not as good as Tom Brenneman during a commercial break, but it's good. I mean, it's good. It's solid.
And they help with our grammar, too.
Yes.
I was struggling because David's mom's birthday is brought to you by Rustler's Steakhouse.
It was. Rustler's was Saturday night. That's where we went. That was the big night out. We did nothing but fast food Monday through Friday. And Saturday, we would do the Rustler Steakhouse. You walked in. Mark, is a big deal. It's a big deal. I got my tray, cafeteria style, and you grab what I wanted. You ordered your steak. By the end of the line, they gave it to you.
Yep. No, that's York Steakhouse in my world. It was in Square Mall. I know the place you're speaking of, David.
Yeah, $3.99. Are you kidding me? Get a drink. My mother go in with $10. We'd each eat. Oh man, that's a big deal.
I think I was a big fan of the chopped steak with mushroom gravy, if memory serves. They would put the number on your tray. You would you'd get the number and how you wanted your steak cooked. You'd order it, and then you'd walk through the line, grab your side dishes, your dessert, and then by the time you got to the end, hopefully your steak was done, or you may have to wait for a minute or two as they were grilling the steak.
Okay. Does everybody in their family have this person? This person in my family is my mother. My mother, even at the Rustler Steakhouse, would tell them not just how she wanted the steak, would tell them how to cook it. My mother would say rare. And so, the person goes to write down rare. My mother then defines what rare is to her. And when I mean rare, I want you to take it for 15 seconds on one side. And then I want you to flip it, and I want you to do it for 15 seconds on the other. Okay. And I want you to put it on a plate. And then the person looks at him. And my mother goes, yes, I basically still want the thing talking to me. If it's talking to me, that's what I want.
Yeah, wipe its bum and have it moo when it gets to the plate, basically, what you're asking for.
Yes. And so my mother would not just order the steak, it would also tell them how to prepare it. That you may think you know what rare is. This is my definition of rare. And I always got a kick out of the fact that, we weren't at Shula's. We weren't in a big city at a big expensive steakhouse. I could understand
you were talking to a $3.36 an hour person at the counter that doesn't care what your mother says and is not going to listen to a word she said when taking the because she's already typed in rare. Right. Done.
Right. But thank you, Johnny Mack, in the Twitch chat room. I at first said to my mother, Mom, that's not rare, that's raw. Okay. And my mother was just like, that's rare to me. Oh, okay. So after about 3 years, I think I waited till I was like 11. All right. I finally tapped my mother on the shoulder and said, Mom, we're at the Rustler. It's just, come on. What do you expect for $3.99 here? I mean, Mom, they're giving us Jello with whipped cream at the end of the line. Come on, you get what you get here. This is kind of like the school cafeteria, if you know what I mean.
What do I expect for $3.99 with a raw steak? Food poisoning.
Right.
That's what I really expect, David.
Or as we called it, a night out in the 70s. Right. And so, but that's how it went. So I'm guessing that there's one person like that in every family. You go out and there's one person, you go to the steak place, everybody just orders, one person orders and then says, but this is how I like it done. Because medium rare's not enough. It needs to be explained.
I don't have one of those, but I do have what my wife does, and I tease her about it, is that my wife is insistent every time she orders to point to the menu, to the waiter or waitress, what it is she orders, as if the waiter and waitress don't know what's on the menu already. I would like the
point out
this certain set. I'm like, they know what the hell the menu is. It's their job.
Well, maybe. Now, the only way I think you're allowed to do that is if you're in like a fancy restaurant and you can't pronounce it. All right. So then you just take it and you go. Now, of course, Mark, I would
like the steak and cheese. I mean, it's not that, I'll have the Reuben. This is not pronunciation here. This is pointing.
Now, of course, I never go to a place in which a meal doesn't have a number next to it. So, it's really easy for me.
Ain't it the truth? Ain't it the truth, David? Boy, you hit the nail on the head
right
there.
Wait a minute. Hold on. There's not numbers associated with these meals? I must be in the wrong place.
Sums up this show in a heartbeat. We have a poll question. Is around Tom Brenneman, the Reds broadcaster, who uttered a homophobic slur when he thought he was off air and then told everybody he was a man of faith, which, I've got to, maybe he must be a really Christian conservative because they don't like gay people either.
Hello.
Well, sorry.
Is this on? Hello?
That's
Hello?
a joke. Don't give me your faith crap. Do not throw out a slur. And then your first words are, I consider myself a man of faith. Unless it involves gay people. And then I'm really not. I mean, what the hell? And I'm sorry. I guess why I'm so adamant on the firing also is because of the apology. The apology is gross.
Well, I don't think it's gross.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I don't think it's gross.
I want to apologize to the people who signed my paycheck.
Well, he was just...
He apologized to. Who signs my paycheck. Couldn't give a damn about who I offended.
Well, that's not true.
I cover my ass with my boss.
That's not true. He did apologize to the people he offended. He didn't do it first. Okay, but Mark, let's be honest. All right, if it were to happen to us, okay, at that moment, his career is flashing before his eyes.
Yep.
I mean, his entire career. It's a really good career. I mean, he has been a broadcaster of a Major League Baseball team for over 30 years. He is one of the top 5 play-by-play guys at Fox. He's the play-by-play guy of their number 3 crew in the NFL.
Yep.
When Joe Buck does the World Series, Tom Brenneman is the one who's tapped to come in and do 1 or 2 games with Troy, whether it be on a Thursday or a Sunday. And it's been that way now for years. I mean, he's their number 2 college football guy if they want him to do a college game that week, or he's their number 3 NFL guy, or both. I mean, on the network ladder, that's a pretty damn good gig. His entire career, he realizes, is he may have lost everything. Everything. And so I can forgive him if the apology was not in the correct chronological order, because he's freaking out. And I think we all would be freaking out. Now, the home run call is awkward. That's where I think you just have to, you're on television, just everybody watching realizes that Castellanos just hit one over the wall and it's become 4-0. I mean, that does kind of hurt the apology. That's funny. You're freaking out. You're apologizing, yet at the same time, the professional in you wants to go. And there's a drive to left center, and the Reds lead it 4-0. Back to the apology. But I can forgive and maybe it's because we're broadcasters. I can understand that the apology may not have been in the correct chronological order. I mean, literally, he's like, Tom, you better apologize, and then you're done. And he knew at that moment, wow, this could be, as he said, I may never put a headset on again. And at the end, he begs for forgiveness. And that hopefully some people will come to my defense and at least say that I'm not the person that I'm now going to be characterized as. It's awkward, but I mean, I don't know how many people wouldn't have a somewhat awkward apology in that situation, Mark. Their career is they're freaking out inside.
And I guess at some point we grow up and we know there's certain words we're not supposed to say if we do the business that we do, David. When I was 16, when I was 18, when I was 20, that's a word that I said. I can't tell you the last time I've said that word. I don't even know.
Listen,
I don't drop Ed bombs either. Have I said them in my life when I was younger? Yep. It was wrong. And I've learned. But I don't say it. I don't like people that say it. I don't like that word. You don't do it. And if he said it that flippantly on air, it's part of his vernacular.
Well, it may. Okay. I mean, and listen, if you or anyone else comes to that conclusion, I mean, it's tough for somebody to say that that's an unjustifiable conclusion. And you can't tell people how to take it and how to feel. Is it a fireable offense? Yes. Yes. Does it meet the threshold, particularly in 2020? Of course it does. The question to me is, would you fire him?
And that is our poll question. If you were Tom Brenneman's boss, what would you do? Fire him or suspend him? There are really only two choices. You can't do nothing.
Now, my first reaction, and I've been and this is not just for this incident, I have been pretty consistent on this for a long time now, is that we do seem to only be at the extremes, that it's either nothing or firing. And I have said for a long time, it's like being grounded as a kid. I mean, what's wrong with a suspension? Listen, when I got fired over at the other place, I thought when I walked in, I thought it was 60-40, 70-30 I was getting fired. All right, when I walked in the door. But I literally said to the boss, I go, are you sure this doesn't warrant a 3 to 5 day suspension? And he said, no. And I said, okay, 17 years. I go, are you sure? And I looked right at him and I said, hey, I'm fine if you want to get rid of me. Fine. I go, and I laughed and I said, I think we're both sick of each other. I go, so I get it. And I only have 6 months left on my contract. I go, but are you sure that you want to go this route as opposed to just suspending me for the week? And he said, yeah, I'm sure. And I was like, okay, fine. But to me, and listen, I mean, the people we work for now, as we were signing our contract 3 years ago, he looked at me and said, just for the record, you say publicly about this place what you said about your old place, I'll fire you too.
I was there for that.
Right. And Mark chuckled.
I was there for that one. I laughed my tail off.
Right.
Because he looked David dead in the eye and said, for the record, you say that, I'd fire you too.
Right.
And I howled.
Right.
Howled. I think it's funny as hell.
And I love the fact that he didn't feel the need to look at Mark. He's like, I don't think Mark's going to be dumb enough to say that publicly. Okay,
no, but go back and read the article. Read your quotes and read mine. I actually threw myself under the bus several times. I said, I know I can be very difficult to work with. I get it. I'm an edgy guy.
Yes. Yep. It's a word that comes up often, Mark, when people talk about you. You know what they say? Edgy. So back to Tom Brenneman. Do I think, I mean, the sense I'm getting from the Reds and from Fox Sports Ohio, the sense I'm getting is they're going to fire him. All right, which I think puts Fox nationally in a tough spot. Like, imagine you're Fox. If the Reds get rid of him, can you keep him? Now, can you? Yes.
Right.
But think about the grief that you're going to get if you do keep him. Wait a minute. His full-time employer is done with him. You're his part-time employer, and you're okay with it, which once again gets back to, it's not that we're okay with it, but could you just take him out of the rotation in 2020? Seriously, could both Fox Sports Ohio say, Tom, you're done rest of the year? And remember, the Reds could make the playoffs, but locals for the most part don't do playoff games. But, hey, you're done.
Not on TV at least, right?
Right, you're done for the rest of this year. And could Fox nationally say the same thing and just say, Tom, we just hired Adam Amin. We've got a bunch of Fox actually, from a play-by-play standpoint, has a very deep bench.
Dave, let me just give you, I don't know if you read it, and you probably have. I doubt our audience has read it, or at least most of them. I think this sums up what's going to happen to Tom. Shortly after midnight, the Reds released their official statement. The Cincinnati Reds organization is devastated by the horrific homophobic remark made this evening by broadcaster Tom Brenneman. He was pulled off the air, and effective immediately, he was suspended from doing Reds broadcast. We will be addressing our broadcast team in the coming days. In no way does this incident represent our players, coaches, organization, or our fans. We share our sincerest apologies to the LGBTQ community in Cincinnati, Kansas City, all across this country and beyond. The Reds embrace a zero-tolerance policy for bias or discrimination of any kind. We are truly sorry to offend to anyone who has been offended. That statement right there says he's fired.
Well, if you have a zero-tolerance policy.
That statement right there says he's done. But make no mistake, when I read that, I'm like, oh, he's fired. He's gone.
That's the conclusion that I came to as well once they released that statement, which I said, well, if you have a zero-tolerance policy, although it does beg the question, if you have a zero-tolerance policy, then why haven't you already fired him?
It was 12:15. That's the only reason I can give you for that one, that maybe the person who was firing him was asleep.
Well, Mark,
I doubt it, but
Mark, I'm not kidding. I grew up watching ABC 7 in New York. They were the number one station in the New York metropolitan area when I was growing up. And they had a weather guy named Tex Antoine. And Tex was funny. And the reason they called him Tex was because he was from Texas.
Makes sense.
Right. And so it was the late local news one night. And they threw it over to him. And in some witty banter, in some crosstalk, he made a rape joke. Right. He did. And Tex did the weather, did his 3 minutes. And when Tex came back, he threw it to the anchor set, and they did a one shot of Roger Grimsby, who was the main male anchor on the 11 o'clock. And at which point, unbeknownst to Tex, Roger Grimsby was reading the fact that Tex has just been fired. All right. 3 minutes. They fired Tex in 3 minutes. Okay. Now, and they didn't have computers to type that up. Somebody had to manually put in a typewriter, type that up, rip it out. The boss sitting at home saw it, called into the newsroom and said, he's fired. When he's done with the weather, announce his firing. Somebody typed that up, ripped it, ran it in. They taped it into the machine because that's what you did back then. And they filtered it through the prompter. And Tex said, back to you, Roger. And Roger said, thanks, Tex, and turned to the camera and read that Tex had been fired. 3 minutes.
Fox Sports Ohio put out a statement as well. The language that Tom Brenneman used this evening is hateful, offensive, and in no way reflects the values of Fox Sports Ohio. We agree with the Reds' decision to suspend him until further notice. Amir Garrett, who's a pitcher for the Reds, took to Twitter right when he got to the locker room and heard about it, and basically tweeted to the LGBTQ community, Just so you know, I'm with you, and whoever is against you is against me. I'm sorry for what was said today. That's pretty interesting that a player in the game ran to Twitter after to apologize for what the broadcaster said.
So it's our poll question today, and we're not asking it to be trivial. We're not asking it to be, light. We're not asking it to be jerks, quite frankly. But it is, let's face it, at our workplace, any workplace, small, medium, large, what have you. An issue comes up in which, is this a fireable offense? Yes. But would you fire the person? And let's be honest, there are extenuating circumstances. Tom Brenneman's been the television voice of the Reds for a long time. His father, Marty Brenneman, broadcast Reds baseball for 50 years. He just retired at the end of last season. He's in the Baseball Hall of Fame. He is beloved. Now, his son is not.
No, he is not.
His son is a bit of a controversial figure. Marty was more lovable. Tom is a little more harsh. There are plenty of Reds fans who actually are not huge Tom Brenneman fans. The reason I point that out is, let's be honest, if you're the Reds, does that enter into the equation?
Of course
it might.
Of course it does. Don't act like it doesn't. If he's beloved by everybody, a suspension is far more likely than if he's somewhat controversial.
Right.
This is not our yesterday poll question, in which green grapes beat out red grapes by 14 percentage points. All right. That yesterday was flippant, silly, and dumb. Today, and to credit David, for a few years, certainly in all of Act 2, and I don't recall how much at the end of Act 1 David started this, but I know it was there. David has always been on the side of suspend, not fire. This is not unique to the Tom Brenneman situation. To defend David, not that he needs me to defend him, but this has been a consistent argument that David and I have had over the course of a couple of years. Do we have to jump to the gun and fire every time?
Now, I'll say it again. This is a fireable offense. And I told the story, so I don't necessarily want to repeat it. But I made an offhanded crosstalk comment early in my local television career in which apparently what I said had a double meaning. I was unaware of that. And I got called into the office the next morning and said, we got a problem. And I had to apologize on the air, but I also had to go and face the music off the air to the group and their family members that I hurt. And it was completely unintentional. I did not realize that what I said could be taken in that way. And it had to do with an address. I thought the TV station that we worked at had a certain address. And apparently we were attached to a nursing home. Well, the nursing home apparently had the same address. So I made a flippant joke about our, very awful working conditions, quite frankly. We were building a new building. That's how awful our working conditions were. And so when I joked about the address and I gave it out on the air, I thought, instead, I then am now denigrating the nursing home where loved ones are living in. And so needless to say, and, we had huge ratings. So everybody in town heard it. And I got called in and the general manager looked right at me and said, I can fire you for this. And I felt like Brenneman did last night. I'm like, this is over. I'm 26 years old. It's going to be over. And it was emotional for me. But as it was, they just, they let me apologize. They let me face the music off air as well. And they suspended me for 3 days. They waited 2 years later to fire me over a contract dispute. But, at least I still had a career.
I mean, because inevitably Miller and Moulton are going to get fired.
Oh, we're good at it.
We have perfected it. To be honest,
we're good at it.
Right.
We really are.
And that's why I think David jumps to defend those who are in a position of being fired and saying, is that really the move you need to make?
Yeah.
And this has been consistent with David for as long as I remember.
And it's probably because of the personal experience that I had nearly 30 years ago. And so, I hated the general manager. But when he said, this is a fireable offense, I agreed with him. I'm like, yeah, I got nothing here. You fire me, I just clean my desk and I'm out of here. You're right. I should have known better. I didn't, but I should have. And so, that's our question. If you were his boss, because my gut reaction is to suspend him for the rest of the year and to see, is it possible that he can have a lifeline? Is there something he can do, but off air, et cetera? Will he be accepted in the clubhouse? This, that, and the other thing. Are all our sponsors saying fire him or we're done? My gut reaction is, is this how a 31-year career with our organization ends? It ends, boom, that's it. And yet the answer, hey, if it's yes, I get it. I do. I totally get it. But my first reaction is to suspend and see whether or not, because a week is a long time in a situation like this. If you can get it to the weekend, things, next week's the Republican National Convention. You know what I mean? Then football's going to start.
By that point, Tom Brenneman could be speaking at it.
Well, and so you know what I mean.
Come on, that's funny.
It was funny.
That's funny.
No,
Do not let that slide without being a little humor there.
That's in a
I'm
very
a registered Republican. I can say that joke. That's funny.
That's a very in a Bill Maher way. That's yes. Okay, that's an HBO joke. All right, that is.
I apologize to those that are watching on regular.
As somebody
YouTube, I don't apologize. Radio, apparently, I apologize.
Is somebody in the Twitch chat room pointed out Marv Albert? Hey, they could have fired Marv. There's no, and if you're unfamiliar with the look it up. No doubt they could have fired Marv. They could have fired Letterman. Okay, now maybe Marv and Letterman were at such a stature that the network, both networks, different ones, bent over to not fire them. But that's all. It's our poll question. If you're his boss, what would you do?
And it's funny, Darren Ravel stole our poll question because I happen to be on Twitter right now, and he used the same exact question, except for he added another answer that I would have never contemplated putting on our poll question, which is reinstate him right away.
Whoa.
And, Ravel's got 2 million followers on Twitter. He's already got 1,600 votes, and the poll question's been up 3 minutes. 13% of the audience say reinstate him.
Wow.
That's amazing to me.
Yeah.
And the majority is on the suspend. Not by much, but suspend's leading fire, as it is on our poll question. Suspend is out in the lead. But the fact that he actually has reinstate him right away is mind-boggling to me.
Miller and Moulton. Pat Donovan. Middays, DAE in Tampa. Got a lot going on in Tampa Bay sports. Brady and the Bucks a little over 3 weeks away. The Rays,
sports town in America.
The Rays a half a game out of first, and the Bolts got by the Blue Jackets and are heading to the second round where they're likely to face the Bruins. Pat Donovan to join us next. Miller and Moulton, thanks for being with us. Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio.
This is The Herd with Colin Cowherd.
The playbook in the NFL is simple. Draft your quarterback in the first round, and when you're not paying him, surround him with a bunch of free agents. That got Russell Wilson a Super Bowl. It just got Patrick Mahomes a Super Bowl. This year I'm picking it gets Lamar Jackson a Super Bowl. And instead, Sam Darnold, they got rid of his star because they just got to tear this down to the studs.
Colin Cowherd. Weekdays at noon on Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio and FoxSportsFM.com.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jonathan France. See your future in 2020. We know that weakened vision can limit our ability to enjoy day-to-day activities. And with the clear advantage of the Panoptix lens, seeing without glasses for distance driving, computers, and reading is now possible. This is the first and only trifocal lens that is designed to be used.
Hey, David, do you have any desire? I doubt you would want to, but that pot stroke, have you heard of that place that Tiger owns? You know, the golf thing that they're doing in Fort Myers and Naples?
Right.
My friend is, she is the PR person or director of marketing for the construction company that's building those. And she invited me yesterday to media tours on 9/10 and 9/11 in small groups. Would you want to go? to see that place?
Yeah. 9/11 works for me. I have a doctor's appointment on the 10th.
Okay. I will let her know. She's coming over Sunday. So I just emailed her and said, hopefully she can at least get me to,
businesses are getting back to business, and we are too.
you know, at least to get us to Tigers PR people for this thing. So that's the one shot we'd ever have to get him on the air. I mean, I think it's a snowball's chance in hell, but the fact that she's the director of marketing for the person building this might help us more than anything else.
That'd be great.
You think? I mean, come on. We've had LeBron. If you can get Tiger, I don't know if they're the two biggest athletes of our lifetime.
So,
well, we've been doing this.
Measures, procedures, and precautions, keeping your health and safety.
Yeah, because
the food store is lending a hand to help America get back on its feet. And just as we have,
we had a minute, Jero.
We're helping to improve the quality of people's lives.
You got a minute and a half
at a time.
Apparently, we got a guest next, according to what David's telling me.
Pat Donovan.
Naples are our newest store in Fort Myers.
I hadn't sent out my thank yous for a while on tech from guests, so I did that yesterday. Carpenter was very cool. He's like, "Hey, call me back anytime." I know he's doing mornings, which sucked because he was a really good guest.
Hello.
Hey, Pat. Good morning. How are you?
I'm well, man. How are you?
Doing good. Mark and David here, obviously.
Yeah.
Good time to be in Tampa, my friend.
It is. Yeah, it absolutely is. If not for the stupid Corona stuff, we'd really be having a blast.
That sums it up. Not for this stupid Corona stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm one of those that hates Corona beer, so I have no problem saying that.
Yeah, me too. I'm more of a craft beer kind of guy.
I just think it tastes horrible. It just has that skunk taste to it. Someone says that. Someone says the Premier is pretty good. I've not gutted it up to have that yet.
Yeah, I don't know, but the guy who at the brewery that makes the beer that I collaborated on, he was telling me apparently they actually skunk that beer on purpose, like it's part of the process for them is skunking the beer.
Wow.
Are you you have your own beer? I'm a little jealous.
Yes. Yeah. Last October, brewery in Lakeland. So our listeners, they call themselves the Goon Squad. And this place out in Lakeland made us a Goon Squad IPA.
Awesome. I'm really jealous.
Yeah.
I had an ice cream once. That was pretty big for me, Tom.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
no, that'd be cool. That'd be cool too.
Yeah. Here we go.
27 minutes before the hour. Thanks so much for being with us. Miller and Moulton, Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio, streaming millerandmoulton.com, broadcasting live the Miller and Moulton YouTube and Twitch.tv channels, and simulcast on the Landry Football Network. Joined us once again, co-host of the Pat and Aaron Show on WDAE in Tampa, the Juggernaut. You can follow Pat on Twitter at Pat Donovan Radio. Pat, it's been a while. David and Mark, thanks so much for your time. Hope you and the family are safe and well. How are you?
We're doing really well, and it's always good to be with you guys. You're right; it has been a while, and I feel like you got to be a hockey guy if you're saying 27 minutes before the hour as opposed to 7:33, right? That's a big hockey term, right there.
And you hit the nail on the head, Pat. We are very much hockey guys, and a big day. I don't say that lightly. After what Columbus did to Tampa a year ago, I'm guessing every Lightning fan, particularly going into game one in the fifth overtime. In fact, I think I retweeted something you said. You and I were kind of going back and forth, and one of your listeners came at me and just said, it's impossible to have faith in this team. And I'm like, wow. I mean, so I think for the Bolts to get by the Blue Jackets, in that huge Tampa Columbus series, why it was on at noon, we'll never have any idea with these markets. But this was a big one to me for the Bolts. I don't know what you think, Pat, but I thought this was a huge, huge, huge series win for Tampa Bay, especially that they did it in 5.
It really was, and as much as I thought the noon start was weird, the noon start and people's love of Rush Limbaugh on WFLA actually pushed the game onto 95.3 WDAE and gave me the day off yesterday. So I wasn't devastated. I just kind of hung out, watched the game with my co-host Aaron, and what a finish. I'll tell you what, to be down 4-2 in the third, to be thinking about having to go to a game 6, and not wanting to give that team momentum because, listen, they do play the Lightning well, and they played the Lightning, I think, as well as they could in the series. They were clearly outmatched. The Lightning were clearly the better team. And you talk about it being a big series win, and you're 100% right, because it's not just that they found a way to beat the team that toppled them and swept them last season after one of the best seasons in NHL history in the regular season, but it's about the way they did it, because there was a real concerted effort this year. And I remember hearing Brian Engblom talk about this early in the year. He came on our show and talked about it early in the year. For a long time, they're really going to play a different brand of hockey. They're going to be tougher. They made some moves at the deadline that really helped out with that as well. And all of a sudden, you're looking at a hockey team that, while they can score a lot of goals, it's not necessarily the brand of hockey they're playing anymore. And while it's, sometimes fun to see 6, 7, 8 goals in a game, when it gets to the playoffs, playing that pretty brand of hockey usually doesn't work out. And they changed the brand this year, and it paid big dividends here in round one.
The bad break, though, Pat, is that it looks as if, unless the Caps come back to defeat the Islanders and or the Canadiens come back to defeat the Flyers, is that Tampa Bay is going to get Boston in the second round. Now, these are the two best teams in the East until proven otherwise, but to meet in the second round, if the Lightning go out in round 2, do you think that the organization can still look at it and go, listen, we're still one of the 3 best teams in the league, and we're just the second best team in the East. We just have to figure out a way to get past Boston? Or do you think that they'll go, oh, first round last year, second round this year, we've got to make some changes?
I wouldn't be shocked this year if changes were made, but it would still be, if I'm in charge, difficult for me to do, especially with it. This whole year. And I don't care if you're talking about the Tampa Bay Lightning or anybody else. This whole year, everything, the way everything's gone down, it's been really weird, and it's tough to put any series loss or anything on a team the way that you might in other years, right? So at the end of the day, I think John Cooper's around, and that's the change we'd be talking about, right? I mean, I think he's around at the end of the day, regardless of what happens in round 2. But you know what? I kind of like it. A lot of people were bummed out when they lost to the Philadelphia Flyers and ended up that 2 seed, because they didn't want to match up with Columbus in round 1. And I said, no, you know what? I want Columbus. I mean, I don't have to get on the ice, but I want Columbus, right? Because I want the Lightning to be able to exercise those demons. And I look at it like, listen, whether it's in round 2 or round 3, if you got to beat the Bruins at some point, I don't mind doing it in round 2, because if they do that, they beat that Bruins team that was the best team during the regular season, despite now being, a lower seed because of this strange round robin scenario. Listen, you beat the Bruins in round 2 after exercising the demons of Columbus in round 1. You got to be feeling really good heading into that next round. So, you know what? I kind of like it, actually, even though it's going to be another tough series for this team. I think that it could be really good for them in the long run as far as getting all the way.
All right. What about Stamkos? You hear, I mean, he obviously was out this whole thing. He's one of their best players, and they did this without Steven Stamkos. But when you look at the Bruins and their firepower offensively, at some point, you're going to need this guy on the ice. What are you hearing?
It'd be really nice to get him back, right? And listen, you talk to the guys that really know, guys like Joe Smith that are right there with this team every day, and they don't know what the hell's going on with Steven Stamkos. So it's a frustrating situation, because it looked like this unbelievable silver lining, right? Coronavirus sucks and everything about it sucks, but it looked like for the Lightning, it could be this silver lining of, hey, we shouldn't have had Steven Stamkos back for the playoffs, and now we're going to. And then as soon as the team starts working out, he gets hurt again, and he's out indefinitely, and we just don't know. Now, listen, we also didn't know what was going on with Victor Hedman before game 1 of this series, remember? We didn't think he'd be playing after the injury. So when he comes back and we have Victor Hedman after getting hurt, against Philadelphia, the boost that gave this team and this fan base was huge. And obviously the players knew he was going to be back, but a lot of us, did not. You never know if we could see that with Steven Stamkos as well. I feel like they're going to play it as they did with Victor Hedman. We didn't know until they started skating before the game that he was going to play. I wouldn't be very surprised if the Lightning did it the same way whenever they are ready to bring Stamkos back.
Talking with Pat Donovan, 95.3 WDAE, co-host of the Pat and Aaron Show, middays. Follow Pat on Twitter at Pat Donovan Radio, talking Tampa Bay sports. We just talked a little Lightning, now on the Rays and Buccaneers. Excuse me, I got Tom Brady on my mind. To the Rays. Hey, Pat, if the Rays beat the Yankees today, they're in first place. And, remember, this Yankees team is apparently the greatest Yankees team since the 27 Yankees. So, to get a little respect in the market, how about them Rays?
Oh, it's really something else, because there was a time not all that long ago, they got off to a very fast start, and all of a sudden they hit a big bump, right? And they lost 5 in a row, which you guys know, 5 in a row this year is not 5 in a row most years. 5 in a row this year is much bigger than that. And we had already started to have the conversation on the show, like, yeah, because the Yankees were just crushing everyone and hitting home runs in every game, and weren't yet dealing with some of the injuries now that they're dealing with LeMahieu and Stanton and Judge, with all those guys out. Well, we were already starting to have that conversation, like, hey, you don't have to worry about the Yankees and first place, because first and second place makes the playoffs, and there's more wild cards. So like, there's going to be half the league, actually more than half the league in the playoffs. So let's worry about getting in the playoffs, and then anything can happen from there. And all of a sudden, here we are, we look up, and they're half a game out of first place with a game against the New York Yankees today. And it's really unbelievable the way this team has kind of piecemealed things together, both offensively and on the mound, because of some of the injuries they have had. Not that they've had a ton, but it's been a little bit patchwork here and there. There's been nobody really that's gone out there and thrown 7-8 strong innings yet for this team. And like you said, they're on the verge of potentially stealing first place back from the Yankees today. And it's a big surprise, but it's pretty impressive. And Kevin Cash deserves a ton of credit.
Cash does, their general manager does. I mean, it's almost like you could just hand the Executive of the Year award in baseball. We joke about MVPs. LeBron should probably be the MVP every year, but sometimes, like Michael was the MVP every year, and we have to give it to Charles one year, and we have to give it to this guy one year, because I kind of look at that with the Rays organization, because when you started talking about piecemealing this year, they've been piecemealing the last 4 years. They're doing something that no one else in the sport is doing in the toughest division with the largest payroll, and they just simply win 90 games every damn year. I mean, it's pretty remarkable that they can fly under the radar, even in Tampa. They fly under the radar everywhere, and are doing something that no one else in baseball seems to be able to accomplish. It's really remarkable.
Yeah, you're 100% right. It's impressive, and they have been doing this for quite a while. And I say it, but like, it's not as piecemeal this year as even like just a couple of years ago, when it was really heavy with the opener, and last year with the opener, and some of the things that we'd never seen before in baseball. And that's what's really remarkable about this organization is, whether it be the way they started constructing teams, in the late 2008, 2007, and people started to see the different way that you can build a team, the versatility, and some of the things the Rays just did differently than everybody else. Then all of a sudden there was the opener, and I'll raise my hand. I was one of the first people to be like, this is stupid. What do you mean opener? What is this? Nobody's going to do this. And now the Yankees do it. Now that organization that would like look down their nose at some of this quirky, gimmicky stuff that the Rays would do, it's becoming part of baseball. It's changing the game. And even those teams that you looked at and said, oh, with their payroll, they'll never, even they're doing some of the things that the Rays have done. So it really is pretty remarkable the way that not only have they competed with such a low payroll, they've changed the game of baseball. And that's pretty shocking.
It's remarkable. And, back-to-back 90-plus win seasons. And if they beat the Yankees today in a matinee, the Rays will be in first place. All right, Pat, quickly. Here's my concern with the Bucs. Quite frankly, it's their schedule. I think they're a good team. I definitely think they're one of the 7 best teams in the NFC. I think they're one of the 4 best teams roster-wise. But they play 5 primetime games. They have 5 short weeks. They have a handful of games in which their opponents have a lot more rest than what the Bucs will have when they play those games. Their crossover divisions are the NFC North and the AFC West. Not easy. Their bye week's not until late in the season. I mean, I understand the Saints have a similar schedule and all that. Okay, but their bye weeks in week 6. The Bucs isn't until week 13. I think Tampa's schedule is really hard.
I actually really like this schedule. It's funny because and to me, I'm one of those guys, and I know there's very different philosophies on the bye week, but I'm one of those guys that for me, I'll take the bye week as late in the year as I can get it, right? Like if I can be as healthy as I can going into the playoffs, have that week to get over some of those little nagging things closer to the playoffs. I actually love the late bye week. And what I think shapes up well for this Buccaneer team, and you're right about a lot of the things you said when it comes to some of the short weeks and the primetime games, and it's definitely not an easy schedule, but I like the way it shapes up because after that Saints game in week 1, which honestly, I'm going to have trouble deciding like how the Buccaneers win that game, right? When you don't have a preseason and you go in and you play a team with the kind of continuity that the Saints have and things are brand new, even though they're going to be good, they're brand new. I have trouble seeing how they win the Saints game in week 1. But then the Panthers, the Broncos, the Chargers, I really like the matchup against all 3 of those teams. Then you have Chicago, who again, I think they can play pretty well against. And then, before you get to the Packers in week 6, I feel like after the Saints game, it really lines up for you to have an opportunity to take advantage and win a few games and get off to a hot start. And once you do that, who knows? But it's definitely not going to be easy. You're right about that.
Okay, we know the weapons. We know Brady. What are your feelings about the offensive line? I know he gets rid of the ball quickly. And I understand that it's going to be far different than Jameis, who held on to it all the time, and that was a lot of problems. But you've got a block for Tom Brady. He's not running around. What are you hearing on where their offensive line is right now? Because that's my biggest concern with this football team.
If you asked me my biggest concern with this football team, I would have echoed that. It without a doubt is the offensive line. There are some other places with some question marks and, guys who are kind of ascending and you think they're going to take the next step, but what if they don't, or they don't take as big of a next step as you think? But the offensive line, you're right. It's without a question the biggest concern for this football team. I really like the right guard, Alex Kappa, and what he did in a year last year as far as growth. I think he's going to be a pretty good football player. But when you look at the tackles, Donovan Smith, he's a good left tackle. He's not a great left tackle. You guys know this. An elite left tackle is as difficult to find as an elite quarterback. And that's not what they have over there. But he's a good left tackle. If he can hold up okay and Tristan Wirfs can figure it out on the right side, Wirfs is an unbelievable athlete. But as you guys know, to me, the offensive line and the defensive line, it's one of those positions where it's the most difficult. Maybe not. You see the corners when they get beat, right? But the offensive linemen and defensive linemen, it's the first time for a lot of these kids that they're going up against just grown men who are so much stronger than them. And by the way, have better technique as well. And I think it's jarring for kids who get to the NFL level and there's that level of physicality. So it's going to be a big year for Tristan Wirfs. And if he can't hold up on the right side as a rookie tackle, they could be in a lot of trouble. But I think that they're going to do a good job of utilizing the run, utilizing the fact that they've got 3 really good tight ends. And what's good for this football team, and I think is going to help when it comes to protecting Tom Brady, is you can come out 2 tight, even 3 tight, right? And put it in a situation where it looks like with almost any team, you're 2 tight, you're 3 tight, you're on the football. The Bucs can go 2 tight, 3 tight, and have weapons on the field. They can be in what looks like a run formation and still have guys that you have to worry about in pass coverage. So they're going to be so multiple and so difficult to defend from a standpoint of you don't know what they're doing, regardless of what the formation is, that hopefully that level of confusion that they can bring to a defense can help with keeping guys off of Tom Brady, because guys can't just pin their ears back.
Pat, once again, thanks for your time. All the best to you and your family. Stay safe. Continued success middays on DAE, and hopefully we can do this again once we have football.
Oh, you know that, and it's always good talking to you, gentlemen.
Pat Donovan, part of the Pat and Aaron Show, middays, WDAE in Tampa. Follow him on Twitter at Pat Donovan Radio. Pat Donovan joining Miller and Moulton. Thanks for being with us. Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio. I don't know if we're going to have to ditch it today because you're only going to have about 2 minutes.
And he looks 10 pounds heavier. The fear with him is he's got the fat.
Apparently, we need highlights, David. Not a lot of info today. We'll just get some info.
Okay.
They're legitimately concerned that he's going to break him.
Today in 1991, Dan Marino surpassed Joe Montana as the highest paid player in the NFL. For all of you online, do you care to guess what the contract was for?
Are we talking per year or the total contract?
Either or, David.
Well, right around that time, the highest paid player in Major League Baseball is making a little over $3 million. So I'm curious what Dan was making. I'm guessing Dan was making around the same.
I'm letting everybody play along. If there are any guesses here, I will. I'm not. I'm not going to give the answer until we have the guesses in, because that's not fair to everybody else who was playing at home. David, I'm just going to give it a second here.
No, that's
Besides,
fine.
I'm editing over here.
I just made my guess.
No, I know.
Kirby and Ricky Henderson in '89 both reached a $3 million plateau. So I think the highest paid player in baseball was making, 3.5 to 4. And so I'm guessing that Dan was making the same. I'll go $3 million a year for Marino. That's my guess.
All right, I like it. Good job.
It's probably wrong, but that's okay.
Well, it's wrong, but it's a good guess.
All right.
It was a 5-year, $25 million contract.
Look at that. 5 per.
So Trenton with $4 million, you win the showcase because you were under.
Right.
Hops had no shot over. You're out.
Can't go over, Hops. Come on now. You always have to keep yourself alive. You have to go under. That's why if you ever make it from the studio audience to the panel and the price is right, don't be afraid to just wager $1 every time. If I was one of the original 4 panelists, I think I'd say $1 6 times. Don't they play 6 games? 3 and 3? I think they do.
Yeah, you're exactly right.
I might say $1 all 6 times. It's amazing to me in that game, by the way, how many people are going last and don't pay attention and don't just make a guess that's $1 over the highest guessed.
Yes,
I don't get it.
I mean, totally with you.
I mean, you need to go one of the two ways. You either need to go $1 and hope you're the lowest, or be the highest bid by $1.
The single greatest issue for guys with low T is mood, and the single greatest change for men that get low T care is a greatly improved mood. Many are grumpy when they
Isaac Hayes' birthday today. The late Isaac Hayes. Shaft.
Well, when you said Tipper Gore yesterday, I thought to myself, well, she hasn't been around for a while.
She's dead?
I believe so.
Really?
Maybe I'm thinking. Oh, I'm. You know what? I'm thinking of John Edwards' wife. My bad.
Because I can't say I would be happy, but I wouldn't be bothered by it. I hate Tipper Gore.
Yeah, she's 72. My bad. In fact, her birthday, as you mentioned, she turned 72 yesterday.
Good bike ride are all the sights you see along the way. So when David and I both developed cataracts, it didn't take long for us.
Well, you're still angry at that whole PMRC.
I'm right.
Right.
We really care about improving people's lives by improving their vision.
Not that I can hold a grudge.
No, it's only about 35 years. And you weren't even a musician.
Nope.
Now or then.
That's not true. I'm a musician now. I can play the guitar. Wait till the Twitch hour and I start getting loose.
No, Memphis, we had Tipper's birthday. It was yesterday. Mark had it. It was part of Today Was the Day when.
I brought it up because I hate her.
Right. No, he had it. You may have missed it. It's kind of like our listener yesterday who said, wait a minute, you guys are on YouTube? Yeah, we only mentioned it about 10 times a show.
Right.
Memphis Tom, I got to stop working during the show. Well, we're running late, so you wanted to still do this? Do you? It's fine. Today was the day when. Okay, play the Giro. Play it. Let's go.
Fire it.
The history of today's date, so you're a beacon of useless knowledge around the office.
Useless, but a lot of fun to talk about.
This is Today Was the Day When. Fox Sports Radio and FoxSportsFM.com.
Using you for the count, David. All right, 1915, the White Sox obtained shoeless Joe Jackson from Cleveland for 3 players and $31,500. Joe Wilhoit, 1919, played for Wichita in the Western League, fails to get a hit, ending his 69-game hitting streak. He had 155 hits in 299 at-bats. That's a .505 average. The first commercial radio station, WWJ in Detroit, begins broadcasting today in 1920, and the juggernaut WJR would join them 5 years later. Lou Gehrig in 38 hits his record 23rd and final grand slam, beating Philadelphia. Rolling Stones release I Can't Get No Satisfaction today in 1965. That seemed to do pretty well for them. This is an interesting one. I know you know it, David. Today in 1989, Howard Johnson joins Barry Bonds and Willie Mays in the 30-30 Club.
Yep.
Unbelievable.
Everybody thought he was corking his bats when, upon further review, it's probably something else.
Correct. Dan Marino signed the highest contract in the NFL today in 1991. 5 years for $25 million. 2000, Tiger Woods goes back-to-back at the PGA, winning in the 3-0 playoff against Bob May. 2006, he would win it again at Medina. If you were born today, you share your birthday with Benjamin Harrison, the 23rd president of these United States and a distant relative of my wife. Really the only reason I brought it up. Don King, born today in 31. Isaac Hayes, Shaft, born in 42. Greg Nettles, the great third baseman for the Yanks, born today in 1944. Robert Plant, lead singer for Led Zeppelin, is 72 years old today. Quinn Buckner is 64 today. And Dimebag Darrell Abbott would have been 54, guitarist for Pantera. And that is Today Was the Day When. Miller and Moulton, thanks so much for listening to us on Fox Sports Radio, streaming at millerandmoulton.com, and you are looking live at twitch.tv. Great job. Thank you, David. I'm going for a coffee.
Pool doctor.
Hi.
Okay.
Your old pool
Talk
pump is an
amongst
energy
yourselves.
hog. Likely your second greatest.
Thank you, Mark, and hello again, everybody.
They are energy efficient pumps, saving you over $500 a year. We're a family.
I bet Joe hated that trade. Well, now if they had paid him the $31,500, he would have loved it.
Repairs an unheard of $39 diagnostic.
He would have loved it.
MyPoolDoctor.com.
Hi, Trenton.
33. State certified.
Hi, Arch. Hi, Memphis Tom. Hello again, everybody. I throw one of those in every FGCU baseball broadcast just to amuse myself because I know there's about 17 people listening. So I just, at the 6th inning, say, welcome back to Swanson Stadium, everybody. Look over at Greg Anderson, who I'm doing the games with. He's eating a beef stick of some kind, some jerky from Minnesota.
We can fix it, even if you've tried.
He announces in the 3rd inning every game of what jerky he's eating and where is it from.
Non-surgical treatments for you.
I'll tell you, it's a rip-roaring broadcast, ladies and gentlemen. Rip-roaring.
We know that hearing we can try again next weekend is tough. When what you want to hear is wow.
Just hope that we have some of those coming up in the winter and spring of 2021.
Nationally, we can make guarantee.
I've got 41 football games. I was laying out my flights last night. I don't know.
That appointment is free.
A part of me who thinks I should move to Atlanta for the football season and just commute from there. It is kind of the 7th inning stretch. If you want, I'll stand.
307-0125. Again, mymensclinic.com.
The sports station with balls and strikes. We also have strikes. WFSX AM from Naples to Cape Coral and all of Southwest Florida. We are Buckworth. Here's what's trending now. Brought to you by the Center for Men's Health. C4MH.com.
Mark gets coffee. I'm a Gatorade Zero guy these days. I can't have the sugar. And I'm tired of drinking nothing but water. This is like my, 10-year-old Moe's cup. We keep things till they fall apart here. Plates, silverware. Yeah, a lot of plastic in the house.
I finally threw away all, we saved every Moe's cup for our daughter when she's little, to drink out of the plastic, and I just toss them constantly.
Yeah, my wife drops everything, so I keep as much plastic as I can. I don't know what to tell you.
My wife runs into stationary objects. She's back up for her uncle's funeral, right? And she's with her cousin. Her one cousin I've not met, Ryan, and she's got a big bruise on her leg. And Ryan looks at her and goes, "Are you in a problem relationship?" And she just looks at him. She goes, "No, I run into stationary objects." And her cousin Freddie goes, "Me too."
Yep. My wife does it all the time, and I look at her and I go, "When the authorities show up at the house to arrest me and it costs me my career, it's on you for walking into the hallway."
It's you and I both. And, because then my wife, veterinarian, animals hit her. I mean, she's bruised a lot. And, yeah.
Broadcasting live from the Kobe Cooling Remote Studios, where it's always cool and comfortable.
Yeah, we've joked about it here, too. I'm going to get in trouble.
Now, the best local sports show this town has ever heard. Here's Miller and Moulton.
You're live.
Couple minutes past the hour, top of the morning to you. Miller and Moulton, Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio, streaming millerandmoulton.com, broadcasting live on the Miller and Moulton YouTube and Twitch.tv channels. They're both free. Sign up for them. Although we may be moving away from the live YouTube broadcast and going just to Twitch TV. Just want to let a few of you know, all right, because I know there's a few of you, that's how you get the show. So just throwing that out there. That could happen here. So it's another reason why we encourage you, sign up on Twitch.tv for the Miller and Moulton broadcasts. And, also that's the chat room that we pay most attention to versus YouTube. So it's probably a better way for you to take in the show.
I will actually say, now that we're on this new software, David, I actually see everybody's chats, whether it's the Landry football page, whether it's our page, whether it's the YouTube page. This new software that the Landry football people hooked us up with is very, very good. And you're seeing some great graphics. That's all I'm telling you.
Yes. All right. Please, whatever you do, comment in a positive way about the graphics, because Mark does all the work and he needs it, because it's not like we're making any money with the graphics. So he needs positive reinforcement. Otherwise, the good graphics will just go away because he'll be tired of doing it.
Well, I've been slacking today. You can tell that I'm off my game today. I've been leaving things up. I've been a bit of a mess. And the problem was, I met a buddy of mine yesterday, and we did the one more 4 times.
There you go. All right.
Always bad. You want one more, and then you say yes and leave. But we did that 4 times.
Is that the equivalent of hitting the snooze button, by the way? Is that the bar equivalent of hitting the snooze button?
Totally. That was always his name for a bar. Just one more.
I like it.
I mean, I always thought that was pretty solid.
I do want to
He's the reason we got Melanson on the show.
Oh,
the Braves.
There you go, our closer.
So I went to see the project that's going on for the green in the backyard, because that's what Melanson's company does. It's they make artificial golf greens,
right,
for people. And so I went to check out the work and he's already wanting us to do a show from his backyard.
Oh, done. Are you kidding?
I think shootout time we might be going to the his old house was called the bomb shelter. The new house is called the bunker, and we may be doing a show from the bunker come this fall. Bocce and golf, David.
Wait a minute. We can do a show while chipping and putting?
Yes.
Are you serious? Oh, well, done. Hell, it may get its own day of the week. I mean, he should not extend that invitation.
Yeah.
We could be there every Wednesday. That's not he's not smart to invite us to his house like that. We could be the people, the guests that never leaves, with the couple looking at one another going, they were supposed to leave an hour and a half ago. We'd kind of like for Make It Happen night to start. When are they going to leave?
Never.
We could be those guys.
Never.
All right. Doing our show there at millerandmoulton.com. 479-5551. 479-5551 is how you can chime into the show via the Williamson Brothers Marine and Roofing text and talk line. Our poll question yesterday, very trivial. We were tired of doing the big issues of the day. We really were. And so we said grapes, ? Red, green, or none. Green won 54-40, and I guess 6% of you just don't like grapes. Okay, fair enough. Today, Tom Brenneman has got himself in some hot water. He uttered a gay slur, I should say, a gay slur. Thought he was off air. Turned out that the mics were on and they were coming out of a commercial break. He thought he had a few more seconds. And he said something that, you can't say. And don't know if you ever could, but if you could, it was a couple generations ago. And so he's been suspended by Fox Sports Ohio. He's the longtime play-by-play voice of the Cincinnati Reds. Now, his father was the play-by-play voice longer, but Marty moved the radio along and ended his career there after doing TV and radio for a long time. And Marty did like 50 years of Reds games. But Tom's been doing Reds broadcasts for 30 years. I think since 1989. And he's the number 3 play-by-play voice with Fox Sports. He does Gus Johnson's the number 1 college football voice, but if Tom's doing Saturdays, he does their second best game. And if he's doing Sundays in the NFL, he does their third best game. And when Joe Buck goes to do the World Series, Tom Brenneman is the one that gets tapped on the shoulder to work with Troy Aikman and do 1 or 2 games a year with Troy. So he's got a pretty good gig, as we say in the biz. And it's all teetering right now. He's been suspended by Fox Sports Ohio. I think Fox nationally is waiting to see what happens to him locally. And we ask you, if you were Tom Brenneman's boss, what would you do? Suspend him or fire him? And remember, the suspension could be long. Like my gut, and Mark, I don't know how you voted, but my gut right now is to suspend him for the rest of 2020 for both Reds, and if I'm Fox, I just take him out of the rotation for a year. Say, Tom, we'll see you in 2021.
David, I listened to how it happened. It was in between the games of the doubleheader. And he didn't make a joke that was inappropriate at another broadcaster. It sounded like that's where his head was. I mean,
yes.
That's a total blank town, is what he said. And it seemed to me, listening to it, first impression, when I saw it this morning, kind of trending on Twitter, if you will, I listened and I went, oh, that's a word he uses all the time. That's part of his vernacular. He's fired. He's done.
So you would fire him?
Yes. I would have fired him last night.
Okay, fair enough.
He would have been fired before he got on the team plane or whatever the hell, he would have been done. He would have known before he went home last night he's out of a job with the Cincinnati Reds if I were in charge.
Well, I thought Fox, I don't think they released anything, but Richard Deitch, who's one of the probably top 3 media critics or reporters in the industry these days, writes for the Athletic currently. He said that Fox was going to release something. Now, it turned out only Fox Sports Ohio did. His tweet gave the impression that Fox National was going to address Tom Brenneman's status. And I don't remember seeing anything from Fox. Now, granted, Tom doesn't have an assignment with Fox, I don't believe, until Sunday, September 13th. Right now, let's be honest, Mark. Do we have any idea if there's really going to be any college football on September 5th or 12th? I know Army's scheduled to play Middle Tennessee State on Saturday the 5th. They were thinking about playing on Friday night the 4th. I think they've now moved it to Saturday the 5th. Isn't there supposed to be an ACC opener? Or Or no, it was Kentucky Louisville that was supposed to play on like Thursday the 3rd. So I mean, I got to be honest. I don't even know when the first college football games are going to be played.
Yeah, David, I find out what's on right after I do the good, the bad, and the ugly, and I look at the TV Guide live sports. I can't get to football yet. I mean, I know you do because you've got 41 games to work. Right now, I'm trying to figure out what NHL game follows what NBA game right now. That's as far as I can go.
And speaking of which, Mark, game 2 of the series between the Orlando Magic and the Milwaukee Bucks, our coverage begins at 5:30 tonight on Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio. This just in, Orlando won game 1. Third biggest playoff upset in the last 20 years.
I mean, Orlando won game 1. The Blazers won game 1.
Mm-hmm.
And the Clips just went and lost game 2. So that series is tied 1-1.
And they were fortunate to win game 1. Don't know if they win it if Porzingis doesn't get ejected. So, yes, some of the big boys are in trouble early in the NBA playoffs. We will say it again, though. NBA really needs to go to a first-round best-of-5. All right. These upsets would be far more compelling if it was a best-of-5 series. The feeling is with it still being best-of-7 that the quote-unquote better team will still find a way to win.
Which is why, David, they will never, ever, 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 ever go to a best-of-5 because your theory is right on. And for you and I, we love the drama of a game. You know, when you're down 2-1 in a best-of-5, holy blank. You're down 1-0 in a best-of-5, holy blank.
Right.
1-0 in a best-of-7, you're absolutely right. But the NBA doesn't want the Lakers to lose. The NBA doesn't want the Clippers to lose. The NBA doesn't want the Bucks to lose. They don't want 8 seeds. They don't want hockey. They don't want an LA Kings team that's below 500 to win an NBA championship. It's not how the league's designed. You want the 2 best teams playing, and that's why we never go backward with any of these things. I'm with you. You know I'm with you.
Yes. And I believe Rashad Phillips is on our side too. NBA analyst with Fox, that he's on our side about the first round being a little bit shorter, that the playoffs go a little too long. And usually these first round series are not that compelling. So it would be a way to make them more compelling and or just get them over with faster. 479-5551 is how you can chime in via the Williamson Brothers Marine and Roofing text and talk line 239-479-5551. But the poll question, would you fire Tom Brenneman or would you suspend him? I voted suspend because you can always turn suspend into fire. Now, it would be a long suspension. He would not work in 2020 if I was his boss, either on Reds games and or with Fox nationally. Okay. Is it a fireable offense, what he said? Yes. I have explained many times that because Mark, let's be honest. If he is fired from his jobs, who's going to hire him?
Nobody. Well, that's not true. He would end up if he wanted to. I look at it this way. Jay Mariotti got gassed for a lot of things that he probably should have. He's working again. He was out of the picture for a while, and now he's writing for Jason Barrett in that
sports media blog.
Yeah. And so he's getting paid by somebody, and I kind of laughed because I noticed they were tweeting out stuff because I follow Jason on Twitter, and he's tweeting out Jay's articles. I'm like, we really need to hear from this guy again? Isn't he done? Is there anything I need to hear from Jay anymore?
But Mariotti's an opinion guy. You know, there's a guy who keeps getting second chances in the sports talk world who you and I think are racist. All right. But, and he's worked in a bunch of big markets and he's still working. All right. But those are opinion people. I mean, Tom Brenneman's just a play-by-play guy, if you know what I mean.
People have been bringing up Marv Albert throughout this.
Yes.
Marv did he get arrested?
Yeah.
And it was very sexual in nature, and there were a lot of, go look it up. Like David said earlier, if you don't know the story, go look it up. The rest of you all know. And people bring that up. I guess there's a few differences to me. One is when it happened. We were in a different cultural world at that point. Second, it didn't happen on air. So whether this is the right way to look at it or not. It came into a, I don't want to say he said, she said, but there was that part of it. We didn't know. There was a lot of unknowns there. You can make judgments, but this is on air. There's huge differences to me between that and this.
And also, it should be pointed out, Marv Albert was at the top of his industry. I mean, he had more cachet than Tom Brenneman, who is, as network sports television goes, he's got a hell of a gig. Number 2 college football voice, number 3 NFL voice for Fox. Calling play-by-play. There's only 30 Major League Baseball teams. There's only 30 television play-by-play guys. He's one of them. I mean, he's pretty, he's got some stature, but he's not Marv Albert. Legendary announcer. Also didn't hurt. Legendary New York announcer. And network television is largely based out of New York City. And, number 1 announcer in terms of the NBA on NBC. Marv was their guy. So no Marv this year for the playoffs. Also, he opted out. So we're going to get a lot of Kevin Harlan, which I think is a good thing. I like Kevin Harlan. And one wonders, by the way, if this is Marv's last time as being the main NBA voice on TNT. I mean, Marv's almost 80. So.
And we played the apology earlier. I'm not going to play it again. It is arguably one of the more awkward apologies ever, because very early in the apology, a home run is hit, and he does a play-by-play call of the home run during the apology. It lands on the top 10 most awkward things I've ever heard on radio.
Well, I'll say this. I don't know if this ever happened. So you're having a somewhat serious conversation with your wife or girlfriend or significant other, but you're having it in either the living room or the bedroom where there's something on television, sports, let's just say. And
it never happened to either of us.
And so in the middle of the conversation, let's just say you're talking, and out of the corner of your eye, you see something happen, and you stop talking, and you pay very close attention to what's on the TV screen. Maybe a touchdown or a home run
or a goal.
Or a goal.
Go back to 2 days ago when my wife was talking to me, and in mid-conversation, she went, "So what just happened in the game that you completely ignored me?" I said, "Well, they just scored."
Right. They made it.
I mean, David, what you're describing happened in our living room less than 48 hours ago.
And so the equivalent of that was essentially what happened in Tom Brenneman's apology. He's just starting to get it going. All right. You're not quite sure where this is going to go. And then there's Nick Castellanos, and he deep to left, and that's a solo homer, and the Reds now lead it 4-0. Back to the apology. So, in our analogy, that would be the silence.
All right.
Okay. The call of the no, you're not going to do it. Are you really? Oh, all right. To me, it's not as awkward as it feels to you. Maybe it's because I've been talking to my wife that way for 25 years. Now, she's about ready to stab me in the neck, okay? But to me, it's just the price of living with me.
And I do it to you at least once a show when I get caught on a news story.
All the time.
And then repeat what you just said.
My favorite is when we're doing an interview, because those who listen to the show know, for the most part, we alternate questions. It's easier this way, then we both know when to talk. Now, if we're sitting next to one another, it's easier to just tap the other guy and say, "Hey, I want to do a follow-up," and what have you. But since we've been doing remote, we pretty much alternate questions. And so there are times, more so Mark than me, all right, because he's got the TV on during the show, in which I've asked my question and the guest has stopped talking because he's done with his answer. The problem is Mark is watching the news.
It's why I've turned the news off. I go to Good Morning Football now. I cannot do the CBS News. I can do with a wink 6 to 7 just to catch up on traffic and weather. But I've got to switch off national news at 7 and go to Good Morning Football.
And those are my favorite 2 seconds of the show when it happens. Okay. And Mark's comeback off of it when he realizes, oh, wait, there's dead air. Oh, must be my turn to talk. Okay. Mark then comes back and usually says something like, yeah, absolutely. No doubt about it. Okay. And then, that's his way. I was listening. I was paying attention, which is the sports talk radio equivalent of
the hockey answer. Definitely.
And or to your wife going, gotcha, honey. Yep, gotcha. Okay. And then figuring, God, I'm going to have to figure out what she said.
Of this.
Okay.
Oh,
So that's my favorite part of our show. You guys have your moments. Mark has his with me. Goodness knows, dealing with me is a handful. That's my favorite part of doing a show with Mark.
No, and I'll just to retort, my favorite, and it happened today with David, and he gets very angry at me, is when David is not paying any attention to us coming back on the air. Where he's doing something. He's texting, he's talking, and the music's on, and the music we've shortened it coming back from break. It used to be about a minute. Now there's not a lot of music. You got to kind of talk. And I'm kind of giving David, we're going. And then he just looks at me, and now we'll look up and shut up at me.
Well, because Mark's one of those when the music starts. See, I'm a little old school. Old school, you did 20, 30-second music bed. Now they say don't do that. The music starts within 3 seconds, start talking.
Yes.
So, right. And Mark, obviously, as soon as the music starts, he wants me to start talking. Well, I'm finishing a text. Okay. I'm answering somebody on Twitch here.
Well, that's the best part too, because he answers people on Twitch with text when you can read the answer to them. And they're all paying attention. I look at what they say during breaks and I talk the answers. David types the answers.
Mark,
with the personal charm of this show.
Mark, with all due respect, during the 7 o'clock hour when you got mad at me when we were coming out of break, okay, my wife was texting me the bowel movements of our dog. Okay, this is very important stuff to know for when this show ends as to whether or not, I have to do something or I don't. I mean, I'm sorry. Pat Donovan of DAE can wait. All right. I need to know, has our dog gone number 1 or number 2? Okay. Enough already.
You know what, David? If you would have just said that to me, I would have never even given you grief, because you're right. That is far more important than Pat Donovan.
Right. Or Miller and Moulton, for that matter.
Here is something that is more important than any of it. Tom Brenneman's.
Oh, boy.
My heart, I'm so very, very sorry. I pride myself and think of myself as a man of faith. As there's a drive in a deep left field by Castellanos.
Oh, boy.
And so that'll make it a 4-0 ball.
Oh, boy.
On his headset again.
Okay.
I don't know if it's going to be for the Reds.
That's it.
At least I got that one more home run call in before my career ended.
I will say, of all the lines that he uttered, all right, I consider myself a man of faith, and there's a drive to left center field. All right. I mean, only Scully or Harwell, I think, could have pulled that off. They're the ones that could have, said anything, told the story, worked it in. Doesn't matter. The old joke that it was only Vin Scully could start a story with 2 out and nobody on, okay, and have the baseball gods make it so that he could finish the whole story before the 3rd out of the inning would happen. Here's Tom Brenneman in the worst moment of his career, and he starts this apology, which I got to be honest, I think the network put him in a bad spot. Don't you blow out a commercial break and have him apologize during the commercial break and not have it over live action?
I don't know if you're aware of how much money these networks have lost by not airing games.
Yeah.
So I don't really think taking a commercial off is the right thing to do right now.
Just Memphis Tom.
Apology or commercial? I'm going commercial.
Memphis Tom in our Twitch chat room wants that I'm a man of faith and there's a drive to left center field to make it 4-0. He wants that as his ringtone. That's funny, Tom. That is funny.
There's part of me that would fire him just for the apology, David.
Oh, stop it.
No, come on. This man of faith crap. If you're a man of faith, it's a word you don't use. You just don't, David. Quit trying to bring God into your damn apology when you make an obscene comment. Enough.
You are really worked up over this. Miller and Moulton. It is our poll question. What would you do if you were his boss, Mark would fire him. I would suspend him for now. I'd suspend him for the rest of the year, but I would suspend him for now. 30 plus years with the Reds. I would see if there's a way to get through this. There may not be. See, my thought is I can always fire him. Firing's easy. It's real easy to fire somebody. All right. The hard part is to want to work through this. So I'd see if we can. I don't know if we can. And I don't know if he deserves it. But my gut reaction right now is to see. That's our poll question. MillerandMoulton.com. That Mark Miller, the David Moulton on Twitter. When we come back, we're going to talk a little college football. Brandon Marcello for 24/7 Sports. We're going to talk college ball and specifically the Big Ten and the landscape and maybe get into, recruiting. And Lane Kiffin says these guys should be able to transfer and transfer right now. So we'll talk about it all with Brandon Marcello next. Miller and Moulton, thanks for listening. Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio.
You can't watch baseball while driving. Walking, fishing, golfing, or
I'll be back.
anything else you like
Okay.
to do while on the go.
I'll answer the people in Twitch by saying what my answers are. I love busting him. God, it's fun.
So still at the plate when the Marlins play. Now the pitch. Get the play-by-play. Oh, what a play! On Southwest
He did not say religious faith.
home for Miami Marlins
Yes.
baseball.
Yes, that's exactly it. Well done. Well done, fan. David's over there having a poop conversation.
Owner of DR Martineau Roofing of Southwest Florida. I've been repairing and replacing roofs for 27 years. We operate with integrity, knowledge, and service. Google DRM Roofing or call 239-332-1441.
License number.
Hey, way to go, John. Got that to me just in time for this interview. Let me know when we're at a minute, please.
Okay.
I have a new daytime show premiering this fall, and we are going to explore all sorts of things together. We can share news, lift each other up, be a little naughty, cry, laugh, eat, cry again, and then laugh, and then maybe cry again or eat. Let's do this. Who's with me?
Anybody, I mean, look, I understand we own television stations, this company, so that's why they're running that. Is there anybody in the world, and I know we're all men here, but did anybody hear that Drew Barrymore preview and go, well, there's a show I've got to watch? Or did you all do what I did? There's an hour of television that I must never, ever have on my TV. Because that preview just made me say, please don't watch, ever. Just a thought.
Miller and Moulton fan, the sign made it today.
And it's not just
by the way.
the Cortex.
I've had it in the backseat of my car for months.
We also carry the
It's heavy. I don't know if the wall can hold it, to be honest. I've got to find where the studs are because I don't want there to be a just big hole, plaster hole that falls out. So
I do.
I know you do.
I like the fact that you're going to, do you have a stud finder, David? Do you need one? You need to borrow mine?
I do it the old fashioned way. I just tap
You just
with
keep
the hammer.
pounding on the wall?
Yeah, just tap with the hammer. Like that surprises you. Really? Like that surprises you. Mark, all right. I'm not a rangefinder guy. Nope. No.
Well, first off, you haven't played golf in the rangefinder era.
I have. Okay, not a lot, but I have. But no, I just no. Not interested.
Yeah.
Not interested.
Just ended your chance of being my member guest partner.
Foot, knee, hip, and back pain, and provide comfort, balance, and support.
Hello, Brandon.
Hey.
Good morning. Mark Miller, David Moulton in Florida. How are you?
I'm good. How are you, man?
Doing very well. We're about 30 or so seconds from going on. David goes first. I'm Mark. I go second. Thank you very much for your time. We really appreciate it.
All right, man.
Brandon, I pronounce your last name Marcello.
Yeah, Marcello.
Good. It's important to get that right.
It's always kind of the key.
Call 552-HEAT. Are our newest store in Fort Myers.
No matter where you're boating, with Towboat US, you're covered by the world's largest towing fleet with over 300 ports nationwide. Your local Towboat US companies and
Brandon, where's home?
are here to help 24/7.
I'm living in North Fayetteville, Arkansas right now.
Okay.
Call 239-945-1664 for more information or visit TowboatUSCapeCoral.com. With Towboat US, you're never stuck on the water.
Pool need a checkup? Call the doctor, the Pool Doctor.
Hi, Dr. Mark here. Is your pool a pain to operate? Automation is the answer. Use your phone to turn on your spa, and it'll be warm when you get home. Free on-site evaluations. We're a family company. And for over 40 years, we've been doing business right.
The prescription is the Pool Doctor for award-winning pool service, repairs, and unheard of $39 diagnostic calls. That's mypooldoctor.com or 239-574-1133. State certified CPC 057088.
Now back to Miller and Moulton.
All right, now we're getting somewhere.
No. This is Miller and Moulton.
You're live.
30 minutes after the hour. Thanks so much for being with us. Miller and Moulton, Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio. A reminder, Sunday, it's the Indy 500. That's right. It's the coronavirus year, rescheduled for Sunday. Marco Andretti leads the field onto the green flag, and you can hear all the action. Race coverage begins 1 o'clock Sunday on Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio. Brandon Marcello covers college football for 24/7 Sports. You can follow Brandon on Twitter at bmarcello. Brandon, thanks for your time. Top of the morning to you. How are you doing all this? You hanging in there? You safe?
I'm great. I'm just hoping we get some college football.
Yeah, I think we all are. All right. In the last 48 hours, did you think that there was a snowball's chance that Ohio State and 5 other schools were going to form their own fall league, or did you always think that that was a bunch of nonsense?
No, in fact, I heard that for the first time, I guess, yesterday morning or something like that, and it was complete nonsense. I've never heard that from anybody, and it just was not going to happen. Even if the tried, which I don't believe they were going to try. I don't know where that came from, but that just was never going to happen.
When you look at the spring season, do you think that's going to happen? Because there's a lot of people that question whether or not we're even going to but we're going to pull off a spring football season. Do you think it happens, and what does it look like?
I mean, it's possible. I think they obviously have a lot of stuff to iron out in all these conferences to figure out how that goes. One aspect that maybe doesn't get talked about a lot is, what if football is played a full season, a shortened season with 10 games or so in the SEC or the ACC or the Big 12 or all the above. And meanwhile, the Big Ten's trying to play maybe 8 games in the spring and then maybe a shortened season in the fall. But next fall, the ACC, the SEC, and the Big 12 are playing full 12-game schedules. How does that
I think we lost him, David.
Oh, okay.
It's kind of been popping in and out. His phone connection is not very good here.
Okay. Well,
we'll try to bring back, David.
We'll try to reconnect with Brandon Marcello of 24/7 Sports. He covers college football. You can follow him on Twitter at the letter B Marcello, Marcello. But yeah, the Big Ten commissioner, if you missed it late yesterday, he released an open letter to fans of the Big Ten in which he said the Big Ten Council, the presidents and chancellors, was overwhelmingly in support of postponing fall sports, and this will not be revisited. And Commissioner Warren did say he could have done a better job of communicating what the conference has been thinking and doing over the past days. What many, including reporters, are still asking of Commissioner Warren is, by overwhelmingly in support, well, was there a vote? And if so, what was it? Brandon Marcello, kind enough to rejoin us here. What have you been able to find out about that, by the way? Was there a vote? And if so, what was it? Dan Patrick, a week and a half ago, said the vote to cancel's 10-2. Then we heard, Bobby Carpenter said it on this show a week ago. He heard that when the official vote went down, it was 8-6 to cancel. What have you heard?
Well, I haven't heard an official number, but I've heard those numbers 12-2 and 8-6 before. Then obviously you had two Big Ten presidents within the last week or so say, there wasn't necessarily a vote. And then Kevin Warren says in a letter yesterday, yeah, there was a vote, but he doesn't say exactly what it was. It still leaves it puts a lot of, doesn't shed a lot of light on exactly the process they went through and whether there's actually a formal process they have to go through with a vote or not to cancel the season. But it just kind of further diminishes the trust with Kevin Warren and the Big Ten office at this point, considering, the Big Ten has always been about unity. And even before, obviously, Kevin Warren was there, especially under Jim Delaney, everybody kind of fell in line. Everybody was on the same page. And right now, even after that release yesterday, the schools still are not all on the same page. Obviously, not all of them wanted to cancel the season, but also we're seeing it with schools that were coming out, especially Nebraska, against the Big Ten decision publicly, and of course the Big Ten players and parents. And I think that's why yesterday, as we reported 24/7 Sports, attorney Tom Mars, who's renowned for representing college football players in these cases to try to be eligible, he's representing some Big Ten players and parents, and he's kind of throwing paper across the Midwest, trying to find out information through open records requests of exactly what went into that vote, what was discussed leading up to it, and what led to the decision, because those parents are still not very happy with the lack of transparency that led to that vote. It's not necessarily about the vote to them. It's about what led to it. And they're still searching for answers even after that 2-page letter Kevin Warren sent out yesterday.
Will any of this lead to changes in college football in your estimation? I don't think we ever get a commissioner, but these are the 5 families and they're all doing something different right now. Will there be any more unity in your estimation post 2020?
We'll see. I think that the big story that you're seeing develop kind of behind the scenes obviously started in early July when the Big Ten kind of went on its own and said, hey, we're doing a conference only schedule the afternoon after just a few hours after they had a meeting with the other Power 5 commissioners and even mentioned it to them. There's some trust there that was kind of broken. And it kind of shows to me that even if there's new pieces on the chessboard, so to speak, it's still the same game. And a lot of people still don't trust each other among the Power 5 after we went through realignment and expansion a decade ago. I think every conference for itself, even if when they say they're trying to work with each other as the Autonomy 5 group in these meetings that they have. But if they're going to try and be stronger and kind of go toward a common goal in a lot of areas, whether it's name, image, likeness, and also battling some things with the NCAA, which has does not have a lot of power anyway with football on the FBS level. They're going to have to come together and figure things out because we're moving into a new age for college athletics. And personally, I think we're closer than ever than those Power 5 conferences breaking away from the NCAA anyway. When does that happen? I don't know, but I think these unprecedented times have shown us that just how impotent the NCAA is when it comes to trying to help or guide these FBS conferences.
Well, and one thing that they've done, Brandon, and one thing that so far they have not done, yesterday the NCAA said we're going to grant every athlete in the fall sports, whether you play or not, we're going to basically, this is a mulligan year. It doesn't count. So you can have 6 years now to finish your 5 years of eligibility, 4 to play, and a redshirt year. They're going to make that official tomorrow. But Brandon, correct me if I'm wrong, they have not granted transfer waivers. If somebody from Ohio State wants to go play at Tennessee this year because they're playing football in the fall, I don't think they're allowed to transfer and be immediately eligible. Do you think that that's going to happen? Because if you think about it, let's just say, I go hire an attorney for my son. if I'm Justin Fields' dad, I mean, Tennessee doesn't kick off till September 26th. I got 5 weeks here to go get a court injunction and try to get him to be the quarterback at Tennessee if I want, right?
Yeah, I mean, I doubt the NCAA goes that far and allows that, but it's going to be interesting to watch, see if any star players try and do that. I haven't heard any rumblings of anybody of significance trying to potentially do that. And as you said, maybe get an injunction or do something through an attorney, go through the court system. But as it stands now, I don't see that happening. And I think a lot of these players are just going to have to grin and bear it, which is sad. Considering the circumstances, because not only is it possible that the SEC and the ACC and the Big 12 play this season, but as you said, they kind of get to play for free. They don't have to worry about exhausting their eligibility and playing this year. Meanwhile, in the Big 10, you don't get to play, and also you're not going to get that extra year to play because you're not playing this season. It's not a fair system, obviously, but that's up to the Big 10 and the Pac-12 and their decision makers in doing so by canceling the season. But the NCAA, I don't think, is going to reach a hand down and go, hey, everybody's immediately eligible, because when that happens, the NCAA is pretty much they're pretty much giving up any type of power that they have over the system anyway, because then it'll just be a huge free market of players moving and coming and going.
Well, and I think you're going to have it either way when the season's over before spring. It wouldn't surprise me in one way, shape, or form. Let's look at the Big Ten, because the Pac-12, unfortunately, they've kind of fallen off. They're definitely fifth. We know that by who gets in the playoff. But the Big Ten was second and close to being right there with the SEC. How will this affect the Big Ten schools going forward? We think Ohio State's fine. They're a factory. How does it affect the rest of the conference with no season from a recruiting standpoint? Is there anybody that would benefit, or do they all lose?
I think they all kind of lose in some way or another. How big of an impact that'll be, we'll see when signing day or the second signing day arrives in February when we get all these classes all together. But one thing to kind of consider, obviously, is when the NCAA is allowing these schools that are playing football to kind of have a mulligan year with their eligibility. How does that affect scholarship limits? Because what that's going to do is it's probably going to bump it up over 100 instead of 85 at some schools. And are some schools going to be able to afford that, even the big boys? Will they be cutting players, so to speak, even though that's the naughty word that they can't do, but maybe they have amicable splits with some players? They're going to be playing number games at these schools that do try to play a season. And if they do play a season, meanwhile, up north, they might not necessarily be dealing with that as much. So there's a lot that's going to go into this. But, the decision not to play this fall, I don't know if it'll necessarily affect them drastically recruiting, unless they get to the winter and the spring and they still do not play. At that point, I think you're going to see some players just kind of looking elsewhere. I just don't know how big of an impact that would be.
We keep pointing out, Brandon, to our listeners, just because the NCAA has granted extra years of eligibility does not mean that the colleges are on the hook to give them scholarships for that extra year. And many schools, whether it was last spring and now coming up this fall, they're going to say, hey, you can transfer, but you're only good for 4 years here. We're not going beyond that. Brandon, Notre Dame and North Carolina yesterday halted all athletic activities because of rising number of COVID positive tests on campus. A week, 10 days ago, the prevailing wisdom was, I don't think we're going to be able to kick off a college football season. The Big Ten's taken a lot of grief in the 10 days since. It's kind of overshadowed whether or not we still think we're going to kick off a college football season. What are your sources telling you?
Well, I think that what you're going to see is that this is going to happen at several more universities over these next 2 weeks as things start ramping up and classes start getting underway and we start seeing rising cases. You have no other option than when you do have players on campus with a student population, and if the numbers rise, they're going to have to pause everything on campus. That's in-person instruction and, of course, those athletic activities to kind of go oversee and look things and do some testing, but also isolate those and do some contact tracing. And like in North Carolina, they're looking at a 24-hour period. So they can, continue athletic activities tonight at about 5 o'clock, which isn't that big of a loss, really, if you think about it for North Carolina. But what happens if, say, 3 or 4 days from now, the 100-plus cases rises to 300 on campus? Do you pause it for 2 days, 3 days, a week? That's when you start getting into issues with actual preparation for the season, especially as they get closer to the season at places like North Carolina and Notre Dame. And that's certainly going to be something to watch, because it might not be a situation where it's just a decision from the conference office going, we're not going to play a season. But if you're North Carolina and you're missing, say, 8 practice days leading up to a season, how do you actually prepare for a season opener?
Brandon, thanks for your time and your insight. We appreciate it. Stay safe, safe travels if you're doing any of that, and hopefully we can talk down the road.
All right, sounds good. Thanks.
Brandon Marcello covers college football for 24/7 Sports. 24/7 Sports. You can follow Brandon on Twitter at bmarcello, Marcello, Brandon Marcello of 24/7 Sports. Speaking of 24/7 Sports, was texting with Bud Elliott yesterday, and he's going to be a regular again on our show. We're going to have Dr. Roto again for fantasy football every Thursday, and we're going to have Bud Elliott. We'll just pick a date and a time that works for him, and Roto's even going to give us time on our Twitch channel, our bonus hour, the 9 o'clock hour Eastern, that we'll start doing either next week or the week after, and he's going to join us on Waiver Wire Tuesday.
That's right. That's right, because most people do their waivers on Wednesday, so that's the day you're starting to do things, and I got to start working Roto because I need to win. I've had enough losing. I've had enough.
You're just not making any bones about it, huh? You're just
I've lost enough. Because we lost a couple people in our league, and I am a proponent of the live draft. I do not like online drafts. The funnest day of fantasy football is the party for the draft. And our league has agreed to have a social distance draft. We're going to do it live. And someone goes, hey, you think Roto would want to be in our league? I'm like, no. No, he doesn't want to be in our league. I need him for advice.
No, he wins. Right? He gets in these leagues with thousands of people and finishes in the top 20. No. Probably not the best
you're
choice.
Not invited.
Right.
Moulton get in our league because he just draft and not enter a team and be easy money.
Exactly.
He wouldn't care about the waivers. He just wants to do the draft.
No, I'd pick a team and that would be it. Might not even change the who's playing from week to week. Nope, I'm good. Brandon Marcello joining us here on Miller and Moulton. The good, the bad, and the ugly as we put a wrap on this Thursday show. Happy birthday, Mom. Thanks for listening. Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio.
Welcome to the program. This is the Dan Patrick Show. The Pelicans, if I'm the Pelicans, I just say to Zion, why don't you...
Who is it brought to you by today?
Then just send him home. He just doesn't look like he's in shape.
Let's see.
Felt like the NBA did everything they could do to get you guys in a position to maybe make it into the postseason, but they can't play the games for you.
Dan Patrick. The Dan Patrick Show. Weekdays at 9 a.m. on Southwest Florida's Fox.
My 8 could be one that it's brought to you by. The Brad Collins Show would be another one we could have it brought to you by.
Wow, look at you.
What are you doing? You getting dressed? You putting a dress on? You putting a dress away? Well, that's awesome. You want to come show off your new haircut? Why do you not like coming on camera? Unbelievable. Just growls at me. That's her new one. She growls when she's angry. No response. I just get a...
Open every day, including Sunday. Call 239-481-20.
My two favorite Brad Collins moments. You got to remember, I get here November '99. Brad's only on the air for like another few months,
right?
Because I started, over at 770 in April, and Brad was already gone by then.
I'm surprised Brad was still on the air when you worked here. I thought he was gone before you got here, actually.
No, he was on the air
for him for a week when he was gone one time for free. God, that was a bad move.
And I just remember that he was one day, because he was on in the afternoons, and I'm driving back, local TV. We went to a high school football practice, driving back, catching 10 minutes. It's the only sports radio in town. And he was talking about Babe Ruth as the all-time home run champion at 714.
Guys, let's get the Guys, let's book online.
And I didn't have a cell phone at the time and was about to use the car cell phone, and they charge you for, every call, and the camera, Photog's like, nope, can't use it for that. Can't use it to call into a radio station. Nope. We're going to get in trouble for this. And he couldn't pronounce Mario Lemieux. Kept calling him Mario Lemieux. Those are the two things I remembered.
He was on mornings, though. That's what I'm trying to. He was on in the morning.
See, I thought he was on in the afternoon.
Man, because I filled in for his show. That's the only reason he was on. I thought he was on 6 to 8.
Okay, and for some reason, it's in my memory as the afternoon. So maybe it was in the morning, but I remembered it in the afternoon.
Well, hang on. What's the comments here? Yeah, that Brad was on in the mornings, wasn't he, Fan? I know when I did his show, it was on in the mornings.
I thought
my favorite was Kenny Patrick before I took over that show, when he would just basically read the newspaper. I mean, you could hear the paper shuffling behind him as he essentially was reading articles. It was great.
The Lizard Lounge. Look at that. I met Brad one time. He was working at a golf place on Colonial.
Yes.
And he gave me a hard time.
He always gave me a hard time. He thought I was terrible at what I did. I'm better than, and he's a moron. I'm like, he was a moron.
And I didn't know, and then when he said his name, I went, oh, yeah. And all I could think of was, well, it's Mario Lemieux, and Hank Aaron's the home run champion.
So someone else is doubling down that Brad was on in the afternoon. He was on in the mornings when I moved here. That I know.
From the best headlines,
the best,
to the worst.
It's the worst thing that ever happened to anybody ever.
Prepare yourself and hide the women and children. This is Mark Miller's Good, Bad, and Ugly on Fox Sports Radio.
You're live.
Giro helps out with this. He sends me a bunch of stories, and sometimes I choose his. Sometimes I go off the reservation to try to find different stories. But he has them listed in good, bad, and ugly. So for the good, let me go to his first bad story.
Okay.
There's a new trend going on in Colorado, and it's not smoking weed. That's been going on for a long time. But now women are getting together to go hiking topless. That's right. Carrie Armstrong, co-organizer of the Boulder Hiker Chick, says it feels fun, exciting, and maybe a little risky to be naked in nature. When you've worked hard for your hike, or even if you haven't, it's fun to do something a little silly and liberating to celebrate. I agree. I think it's a wonderful idea. They say it's not sexual or tasteless, and I don't think it is. I think it's wonderful, and I encourage people in Florida to start walking the beaches topless as well.
Stop
Make
it.
this trend become not just a Colorado thing, but an everyday thing.
Stop it.
Encourage topless walking.
Stop
That's
it.
my message today.
Stop it.
Why?
Because you're going to create. Because down here, are you kidding me? All right, you read the complaints on your little HOA, blog there. You all of a sudden, when you start encouraging people to, public nudity, nude beaches, essentially down here. Oh my goodness!
Wow.
I mean, the sheriff's office is listening right now, going, "Are you kidding me? The calls we get now, and you want that?"
Guess I'm on my own for that one. For the bad, we go to New Zealand, where... Let me just ask you this question to start, David. Have you ever had a plant in your house?
Yes.
Did you pay for it, or was it a gift?
Oh, it was a gift. You bought a plant? What?
Right. So this starts out as, what's the most expensive house plant you ever owned? And I've never paid for a house plant, but apparently somebody paid $5,300 for a plant in New Zealand.
Wow.
It's a very ordinary looking Manima plant, but it was a bidding war because apparently the plant was described as extremely rare and currently has 4 leaves with stunning yellow on every leaf. A bidding war, and someone paid $5,300 for the plant. That marks it as our bad. Finally, the ugly. We come back to the great state of Florida, where in Volusia County, politics led to fighting. Shocker there.
Wow.
Apparently, the fight happened on Shell Road in DeBary, Florida, where Anthony Vulu had taken his neighbor's campaign sign and thrown it across the yard. The man then confronted Vulu about why he threw his sign, and Vulu said he was upset that the man placed his sign in a way that blocked his own sign. Well, that led to a fight, and Vulu pushed his neighbor, then his neighbor pushed him back, and that's when Vulu threw a left hook and caught him on the face. Vulu admitted to authorities he was upset about the victim's sign blocking his own sign, so he tossed it. Good news, this will continue right on through November. And that, David, is the good, the bad, and the ugly on today, August 20th, your mom's birthday. And the good, the bad, and the ugly today brought to you by Sport Magazine.
Oh, that's outstanding.
I knew you'd like that.
You know, I think Warren Sapp was on the cover of the last Sport magazine. It was either Sport or Inside Sports.
Both.
And Warren Sapp was the last cover for, one of those magazines. Shortly after, I think the Bucks had won the Super Bowl. So Miller and
that
Moulton.
long? Wow.
Yeah, I think made it into the early 2000s. One of them did.
Okay.
If you were Tom Brenneman's boss, what would you do? The Reds television play-by-play announcer also does some national work on Fox. He uttered a gay slur, thought he was off air. He was not. What would you do? Fire him or suspend him? And so far, nearly 2-1 of our audience would just suspend him.
I want to work for some of these people. Because I've worked for the 35% mostly, David. I've worked for the quick to fire group. And I guess, you had your story early on in your career. I think mine comes from when my first bartending job, the owner of the restaurant had no idea how to work the satellite. And I kind of took the remote from him and got the game on. And he was so offended that I knew what I was doing. He fired me an hour later.
Well, you showed him up.
Yep. By using the remote control.
Right. So once again, Mark, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. I'm just guessing your body language. You gave off the vibe of, listen, dude, you don't know what you're doing. Just give the remote to a pro, okay? I'm guessing.
I would love to argue that, and I don't remember. But my guess is you are 100% correct. You know me pretty well, David.
I'm just guessing. You were young.
Might have taken it right out of his hand, too.
Might have just grabbed it. You
right
dumb son of a bitch. The game's on 434. For God's sakes. Okay, here you go. That's what I'm guessing. Okay.
Oh, my God. I need therapy. There are so many things that I've got to work through. This is another one. Is your wife free? I need a couple of hours today.
And knowing us, okay, that you were shaking your head, you just gave it back to him, shaking your head like, God, if you just knew what the hell you were doing. Okay. To Miller and Moulton fan out there, yes. In fact, the second Richard that you're referencing, he was the producer on September 11th. Spent 6 hours in the studio with him, noon to 6, commercial free on September 11th. He died like a little over a year later. He had a brain aneurysm. He died on Christmas Eve. He was a really good guy too. Rich Hermanson, by the way, is the first producer you're thinking of. All right. But that second Richard is the guy responsible for getting me on sports radio in this market. Okay. For whatever reason, he heard my tape and he went into somebody and said, we gotta hire this guy.
And by hire him, we're going to pay him $30 or $40 a week.
Not even.
Did you do it free for the first?
Yeah. To those that are still listening on Twitch, very quickly.
Oh, they pretty much all are.
Okay. Here was the deal. Here was the first deal that I had, and I'm pretty sure this is illegal, but let's be in this business, Mark, as you said, you filled in for Brad Collins for
free.
There, okay. So here's the deal. Beasley had no money to pay me. That's what they told me. Budgets were already out for the year. And this is like late March. They want to bring me on board in early April. And the deal is they're going to sell the show. We're going to be out on location. And you're going to get, I don't know, $150 every show that you're out on location. There you go. Then that's how we're going to pay you. So basically the money wasn't going to come from them. It was going to come from the sponsor. And we're going to sell the show. All right. And that's how you're going to make your money. I did the rest of the 9 months of 2000, April through the end of the year, 9 months. The amount of money I made, and I did 2 hours a day, 2 to 4 the afternoon for 9 months. Didn't miss a show. I made $700 over 9 months.
Joe Scott and Brad Collins had a celebrity boxing match.
Wow.
I think Brad would have probably won because Joe didn't have many fingers.
He was feisty, though. See, that's, Mark, when you filled in, you might have filled in like 98.
Well, yeah.
Okay.
It was the first year that I lived here because I did it basically because the Everblades were starting and I wanted to get. Yeah.
And I think Brad was in the mornings. And
I know
then they, because part of Joe Scott
back.
They brought Joe Scott back and put him on 770 in the mornings. They wouldn't put him on the mothership, but they said here. And so he did mornings and they moved Brad to the afternoon. And that's when I heard him because I didn't get here till late 99.
Just for us in here, because I probably could get. I don't know who I have a bigger TV crush on right now. I think it's Kay Adams. Sabrina Katz is up there, but Kay Adams is
Good Morning Football.
She is so darn cute. They had a shot. She retweeted it. Someone took a screenshot of the four of them in their boxes and put a little sentence next to each of them. What they looked like. Nate Burleson was like most likely to have a comic book under his Wall Street Journal. One of them was to go to the Home Depot, and it's a big day because he's going to the Home Depot today. But hers was most likely to get out of a ticket doing 90 and a 55. And she's like, exactly. I'm like, yes. And there's just this picture, just hands folded, just looking very cute. And it's like, yeah. Exactly. That's exactly what would happen to someone like that. That's all I got. I have a Kay Adams crush. I can't interview her. If we ever go to Radio Row and interview her, I'll just stare and look stupid.
There's talk of taking Burleson off of that show.
And they can't.
Because they view their franchise show as their 7 o'clock at night show. And apparently it's not doing as well as they want it to, and they feel he's the star of the network, and so they want to put him on that show. And my feeling is, I wouldn't mess with that show at all.
Player off the morning show.
I know
those two guys didn't play football. One worked for Jim Rome, and
right. Well, obviously they'd have to replace him with somebody. But
you found it. I'll put it on right now.
So,
anything you want to say to the Twitch audience? No, you just want to look at yourself on camera really quickly and then run out of the room because I told you we're still on. Maybe we'll read a book later to Twitch. I drove her right out of the room.
Yep, there you go. All right.
Thanks,
everybody.
David, Club Pro guy.
Yeah, today I got it.
2.5 minutes.
I know. Well, I've got time today. I worked all day yesterday, working on a lot of stuff. Today, I got virtually nothing. I got a phone call I got to take in 10 minutes. And then I got a phone call I got to take at 11 o'clock.
Doing interviews?
Well, in 10 minutes, it's something I'm working on. And at 11 o'clock's an interview. But after that, I got nothing. I have to walk today. That's why I put in my 2-3 miles today.
I'm going to go for a swim. Everybody, you do what you do today.
Right. Yeah. At some point, I'll shave. Happy birthday, Mom. Love you.
Happy birthday, Mom. See you later.
All right.